Oh, is this the new ashtray?
So
So
looked far and wide for
Awesome.
ashtrays that weren't stupid expensive.
Right.
And those were $12 for a pack of 3. They're just silicone.
Nice.
I figured I keep breaking them because these little flimsy things will tip over and then porcelain just breaks right in half. Or ceramic, whatever they are. I saw the ashtray I wanted though at an estate sale, but it was online.
Oh, the one with the stand?
Mike Chavez, I don't know if you know him, the realtor that does estate sales and stuff. So he posted 20 or 30 pictures of this estate and all the stuff laid out. And I'm like, so I asked him, I'm like, is that an ashtray? And it was gone. It's like super cool, probably from the 50s.
It's like we're gonna finish off the bacon with the fire in the pit.
Yeah. Well, thanks, by the way. I feel so much better for getting cracked a couple times. And
I forget about such things.
yeah.
See, you've gone in like twice so far?
Twice, yeah.
Riley, could you flip the gas switch over there?
Yeah. Which one is it?
The yellow knob.
Yeah. It was bad. It was real bad.
Well, and then you're getting better, and then you like...
Yeah, I tweaked it again over the weekend.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be a hero. I just did the wrong thing. I think I almost brought this stuff.
I think you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. What that is.
Have you listened to many of these like Radiohead B-sides and EP songs and stuff?
A couple of them. I was listening to the B-side of Rainbows.
The second disc of that, a lot of good songs.
Yeah, and then Gagging Water I just kind of found on its own, but I listened to a couple of them. They're good. They're real good.
A few duds here and there, but
Yeah. A couple of them where I just get like real experimental and I'm not sure what you're
it's like
listening
that's a little much. You got a torch.
Yeah, but there's other ones that are like, oh, cool, but yeah.
So my son says, like, I can't do this, man.
I'm prepared for this.
I don't know where any of my cutters went.
I don't have any cutters on
They're
me, no.
completely gone. And I feel like we've had like 5 of them.
I don't know if my dad was going to do a bit more, but
So Brandon, we finally meet.
Yeah.
Alex.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
I'm Riley. Dr. Greg's son.
Got it, Dr. Greg.
Nice.
Yeah, you were doing the, what'd you call it, the Mesa County Liberty Report? Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
You still doing that?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit here and there?
When I have time.
Yeah, it was around the same time that Dr. Daniel Vaden was having me like do some of the like recording, you know, like the protests and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Yep.
It's starting to click now why I'm like, why you're kind of familiar. So
Oh, there's some cutters.
We've only stirred up a few problems around town.
just a few.
well, because so you mentioned Nina. Involved with her on some white hat stuff and some black ops stuff. Which one is it?
I think your wife took over the position at the pregnancy center that my wife had left.
Okay.
Yeah. Like the bookkeeping stuff.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, like my wife taught your wife how to do all that stuff before she left.
Got it.
Small world.
Totally.
Small world. He should be waiting for
I know. What do you...
We need a cutter. We don't have any. All mine are gone.
Who has like a giant bag full of cigars and no cutter?
I had at least 2, and I don't know where they went. It might be it.
Oh. Wow.
They're so light and stuff too, they just get like lost so easily. You don't like carry it like you so they can slip into everything.
That was it.
It's nice.
Nice. I think they were like $10.75 a piece or something.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, help yourself to all the snacks.
Truffle salt.
Just Right. So what
Be able to borrow
episode is
that
this,
torch.
Alex?
What's that?
Would I be able to borrow that torch?
Yeah, it's a little low, so might need to use a different one.
Okay.
Is it 19? I think 19. We're at 19. Try not to put a smoke in your face.
Like, you want to try it?
This bottle looks familiar. I don't think I've had it though. How much was it, if I may ask?
The 60 range.
60?
Yeah, I didn't want to go over 60.
That's fair.
I'm doing some research on.
You get diminishing returns after like
Yeah.
50, 60 bucks.
Yeah, I agree. I have a friend that was in my leadership program of the Rockies class. He's a former law enforcement and whiskey and cigar aficionado. So sometimes I'll send him a message and kind of pick his brain. And that guy has some crazy stories. Law enforcement, getting called out to homes, going inside, getting chased out by ghosts. He's like, I can't even explain it. I'm like, all right.
I wonder if that's common in law enforcement. Like, in
He's,
general, everyone's got a
Run into the
story.
supernatural.
he said it is, and they're kind of encouraged not to talk about it, just like with
Sure.
military pilots when they see all the UAPs.
Yeah.
It's just, you just don't say anything until recently. Now there's all this disclosure for whatever reason. But yeah, he said there's some crazy stories. And people that are very likely possessed. You know, young girls that are just throwing guys around the room and like, strength that just doesn't even make any sense. And that was all in like a smaller town in Colorado. Bailey, Colorado, which also has a Sasquatch museum as well. If you're in Bailey, Colorado.
Ooh. It's a little different, isn't it?
It's like drinking butter. It's so smooth.
What? Is it a bourbon or just a
Goodness.
Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
Okay.
I don't know what the claim to fame is, but like anybody that knows, like you always see this like on their shelf.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
So
I've struggled to find it.
So it's like having infinite jest on your bookshelf. You just got to keep that around so that you can signal to people that you know what you're doing.
for some Chesterton.
Exactly.
Yes,
War and Peace.
Alex, have you introduced our new guest?
A little bit. I introduced myself. I don't know. You want to introduce yourself to our 60 viewers?
Didn't know we were recording yet.
Yeah, we've been going. Basically, once I sit down, we're good to go.
Got it. I'm Brandon. Do the Mesa County Liberty Report. So,
Been at that for a couple years now.
yeah,
Kind of started
basically
around,
2020.
What is the Mesa County Liberty Report?
It is,
Alternative news.
yeah, my attempt to set up a citizen journalist independent news station or whatever you want to call it.
It's print or it's video or
Video. I've done a lot of articles. I had a Substack for a while. I'm setting up a website. Most of them I just put right straight on Facebook. You know, we've broken a few stories.
That's cool.
But mostly just trying to give that perspective that our local media doesn't give. And that's exactly why it started.
That's great.
I don't have any desire to like be a journalist really. Like I just was like reading the paper. I was at meetings. Yeah, I'm at meetings. I'm getting involved in looking at all the different things going on. And I'm listening to people. I'm writing down my own notes, just trying to understand as a citizen. And then I go read the newspaper, and I'm like, they just left out like all this context. And I'm like, why?
And they're present at those meetings as well.
They're there. They were there. And then I started looking at that closer. I'm like, they didn't cover this at all. They left this out, so the public doesn't even know about it. You know, they won't ask hard questions to these certain groups of people or these certain candidates. Never get hard questions. They don't get any criticism, but they always hammer other ones. Like, and I think everybody deserves criticism if you're running for office. I don't really care. And that, like, so that's not a partisan thing or whatever. It's literally like, why are you not treating everybody the same? Like, that's what you're supposed to do. And I have never seen, like, even like the school board, you know, there's negative article after negative article coming out about Andrea or whatever. Not a single time did they question Carrie Schultes or any of the other. And I'm like, look, I don't care. Criticize Andrea, criticize everybody, but criticize everybody. Like, and so that's when I just started the Liberty Report. I'm like, I'm sick of this. Like, it's just messed up. And if I can find stuff and put it out and just, you know, then people can make up their own mind. You can watch my stuff. You can read the paper too. You can look at all the local media, get a bigger context. What also happens is, like, our local media either gets their information from the Daily Sentinel or from on top,
AP,
on
yeah.
high, from the AP news. So they're only putting out those two perspectives, right? So they leave out all kinds of
somewhat the
context.
same
Yeah,
perspective.
well, yeah, it depends on the
From a different
situation, but
vantage point.
yeah.
Similar slang. I mean, borrow a touch from the Colorado Sun, which I find
Well, that's
interesting.
sure.
It's all the same
Yeah.
stuff, yeah.
So I'm like, you know, somebody's got to do this. Like, I don't, you know, I'm good at finding information. I'm good at explaining things.
Well, you could
Whatever,
sit around and
so-
complain like the rest of us, or do something about it, right?
Right.
So-
That is we were talking about this earlier. Like, that's people who are generally conservative or whatever. Like, one of the biggest problems I see is that all we do is complain and then just take it instead of like finding a way to figure something out that'll make a difference and doing our part. Like, because we just want to go fishing, we just want to hang out, we just want to, like, leave us alone. Like, that's, you know, but if we do that and we don't,
Well,
like,
governance is like this necessary evil.
Right.
It's kind of an inconvenience.
yeah,
Instead of on the left, where it's like, I live to control other people's lives.
yes, yeah. So because of that,
Passion.
Just say it out quick. It is Dominic. Come on.
Third passion project.
they wouldn't. I'm here because I've been doing a lot of deep diving into socialism, like literally watching. I don't even know how many socialist podcasts.
Joined all the groups.
Join all the so many Twitter pages, Facebook pages, Instagram, whatever. Tons of YouTube channels.
How long have you been doing this?
Like 3 months.
Okay.
Like
Hardcore.
pretty hardcore.
Is this a,
pretty
research gathering or a infiltration or a
just research.
Just research.
Like, I'm trying to understand why people are doing what they're doing. You know, like,
And hear it from the horse's mouth.
hear it from their mouth.
Yeah.
On top of that, I'm like hearing the clip, like getting clips of it, because I'm like, people keep telling us this isn't happening and it's not real and that we're just making it all up. And now I'm watching all their socialist, literal, and when I say socialist, they call themselves socialists. This
Yeah.
isn't like,
It's not stigmatized anymore.
well, there's certain people that will say, no, I'm not a socialist, or no, I'm not a Marxist, or no, I'm not, you know, or maybe they're just a classic liberal, or they're like a progressive that doesn't understand how big the socialist movement is on their side or something. But like, these people I've been listening to they don't even hide it. Straight up. You listen to them and they'll just say it straight out. And like, honestly, because of COVID, you know, they wouldn't get in groups anymore, because that's how they used to do all their communicating, right? Now they'll put it all over the internet because they had to start doing more Zoom calls and YouTube. I'm sure they were doing that before, but during COVID, it like exploded the amount of socialist podcasts and things like that just blew up. So now I've found like tons of them, and I've just been like going through like all the contradictions that they believe, just trying to understand like, okay, you're all about LGBTQ, but you're also all about like Palestine and Hamas and all of this. Like, how could you support those two groups of people where like if an LGBTQ person went to Palestine, they'll get killed, literally, for being that. And like trying to understand all these weird contradictions Why do you care about trans kids, but you don't care about the detrans kids? Why do you care about women, but you don't care about putting, you know, a bunch of women in really, really uncomfortable situations, putting a biological man in their bathroom or their training room or taking over their sport or whatever, you know, the Leah Thomas thing. You know, why when Riley Gaines and Leah Thomas literally tied, they tied.
Yeah.
Why did they give the trophy to Leah?
I didn't realize that till the other day that they tied.
It was an exact
And,
tie. And so there's all these contradictions in this whole like movement, and I'm like trying to get, you know, why. I guess, do you guys, what other contradictions? I guess I'll just ask you guys, because I'm sure you guys have some that are ringing through your head that happen on the left side of the political spectrum.
The first one you brought up is one that I've constantly thought about, is like, you know, Islam and, you know,
Feminism and Islam love each other.
homosexuality, basically, you know. It's like you can't like elevate those two things because they like contradict each other. That's the one that always comes to my mind. I don't know, it's just also like what they call it, the soft bigotry of low expectations sometimes, like with minorities, I feel. That's another one.
If you actually want to elevate minorities, you don't tell them that they're just systemically, you know, oppressed and pushed down and you can never get ahead. I mean, I've actually heard people that I'm fairly close to like say that to their family members. It's like, that's crazy. Why would you ever plant that seed in someone's mind? Like, you can never get ahead because of whatever. But yet they're, we're the party or we're the group or whatever it's supposed to elevate.
All of these things tie together, but keep going. Like any others.
Well, it's connected. Heaven forbid you are a minority and you're not like that.
Okay, so yes, so you can probably say like your experience, like you're not.
You're absolutely despised.
Yeah,
overnight.
you're despised, even like
Zero
just
to zero.
because you're like more conservative. You're more like probably like, oh, I like a free market. I want to like be able to have a business.
You don't even have to be conservative. You could be like own the liberal label and just not be as dependent as they would like you to be.
Sure.
Not as deferential or subservient to their stuff. And it's all over.
Right. So that pattern is all over the place. They have a new thing that it's called homonormativity. Have you ever heard this term before? Okay. So
You want to make that the default?
if you are gay or lesbian and you have a normal, you just wanted to get married and like have a normal life and just like go off and that's just what you wanted to do.
But I'm gay.
I'm gay, but I'm just gonna go like get married, and they it's literally right now they are they call it homonormative privilege. So because you're modeling after cisgender patriarchy, is that what they say?
Yeah, so this homosexual quote-unquote lifestyle needs to be its own actual other lifestyle. You can't just be gay and then do everything else that all the evil non-gays
Is it like they're gay but they're not fighting the fight they're supposed to?
Okay, so you kind of hit on it. All right, so if somebody won their rights, this is where it ultimately comes down to, but if somebody won their right to be married or whatever, well, they're kind of out of the battle. They're done being political,
You're done.
right? Like,
They got what they wanted.
yeah, like that's all I was wanting. Now I'm out. But then
You're
it's
not
like,
down with the struggle anymore.
right, the struggle, right? Now we have to advance trans rights or queer rights or whatever, and you guys aren't helping. So now there's like this whole internal battle that I've been watching, and I'm like, this is so. But what they always do is they create language that pigeonholes people, that tries to force them, because it's like if they can turn you into the oppressor somehow, then they're gonna force you into joining back in and getting busy again, right? So they'll like. And it even goes further. Like, if it even goes further into it, where like literally, if you don't want to sleep with somebody who's trans, even though you're homosexual, and that's like the whole thing, right? You're now transphobic. Okay, so now somebody who's homosexual literally can't be homosexual. A homosexual, by definition, is transphobic, and is a I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
It's by definition transphobic, and by definition privileged.
Yeah, like the double bind of like,
If you're
sex is not a big deal and we should all be doing it with just like each other and monkeys and trees, except you complimented my dress and it's the most heinous crime possible.
right, well, yes. Ultimately, when you get to queer theory and queer Marxism, if you really like study that at all, which I don't recommend, but who does that, right? Who sits there through hours of this? Anyway, but like when you get to that point, you go, everything's okay. Like everything's permissible except being cisgender, whatever, or you know, a normal couple that's just a man and a wife. That's bad, right? And now being homosexual is bad. But like that classic definition of that is bad, which is so funny because like when the whole gay rights movement happened to legalize that, like the marriage, over and over we heard, and you
That's
can
all we
see them all.
want.
Well, you're born this way.
Oh yeah.
You're born this way, and you can't change, right? Whatever. I'm just saying, like that was the argument.
Yeah.
Okay, but now you were born that way. You were attracted. You're a woman that was attracted to women. But now you're transphobic, even though you were born that way, and you can't change it
Because you have a preference.
because of a preference that you have. So
Well,
now
it's moved on to
Isn't
like
it
the
just 'cause-
fluid spectrum?
that's
It's
the
like,
gender. This
you-
is
you
what
can
this is
do
what
any-
queer theory.
You need to
okay.
stop feeling
Yes,
that
that's
way.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So now the movement is naturally erasing the categories as it goes,
Of itself.
and it's like turning into the Borg on Star Trek or whatever, where it's all just one thing, and it's eventually gets to where it's a gender, and that's why the whole polyamory movement is like super huge. Like they're pushing that like crazy.
This Family Guy would say just a bunch of pudgy days and bugs. Which I don't watch it, but I've seen the clip.
Sure, yeah.
He's like the little baby, and he goes off on this monologue about pudgy days and bugs.
Right. Here's another one. Here's another one that'll get you. Have you ever heard the word passing trans?
Someone who is trans that actually looks like the gender they're trying to be.
That's privilege.
That's privilege.
because you're not.
Some people aren't as good at passing.
Yeah, no, but I'm serious. But if you think about the same thing about the home, it's good.
I hate dragging it, but there's so many parallels with all the weird race stuff. It's like exactly the same.
Yes.
Like within like black people, so like the lighter you are, the more like ostracized you are by darkers because the whites like you better because you're lighter, which is it's a retarded internal argument thing, but that's kind of like that. It's like, well, you look white, even if you're like genetically black, you're like,
But you've got this privilege.
you're not one of us, kind of thing.
Yeah. So
That's weird.
that's a tribalism thing, right? Like people, but these guys design it. They design the language into that intentionally, because if you're passing trans, and look, this is their own words. Like, I'm serious. This is stuff I've seen on their own channels. You know, I was like, passing trans. What does that mean? And then like, why? And God, you know.
So you need to be trans, but you need to do like
You
a
have to. You
job
can't
at it.
You can't actually look like the opposite sex, because now, number one, you're confirming the binary. Okay. Because they have to destroy the binary at some point. And the other thing that you're doing if you're passing trans is you don't get any kind of ridicule, or people don't like bother you.
Because you're a dude trying to look like a woman and you just look like
You actually look like that, right?
no one-
And so you don't create this otherness. You're not breaking down the cultural norms by actually looking. So even though, right, the whole point was you are a male that wants to look female, right? And that's your desire, and that's
or
what we
used
care
to say
about.
the woman stuck in a man's body.
Whatever, yeah, whatever. So, and we care about that, and we just want you to be comfortable no matter what, and we want you to we'll help you transition, or all this stuff, right? Then they actually transition and actually look that way, and then they go, oh, you have privilege. And now you have to get back and get busy and help us and get political again.
Bind stuff.
It is a double bind. Tons of double binds. Tons of that.
That's all it is. So you can never just be
Because
comfortable
okay,
again.
so this is the way that it's. Just remember this statement: the issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution.
Okay.
Okay, it does whatever they're currently doing. And I am not, when I say this, I'm not, when I say they, I know I'm like generalizing. Not every person that's on the left or in any of these movements is doing what I'm saying. They might just be actually caught up in it and they actually care about this group or whatever.
But they don't actually understand the entire.
No, they don't understand like what's behind
Moral
it
of
and
it.
like the politics that's pushing this whole movement to this singular place in the end.
They're not trained neo-Marxists. per
No,
se.
no.
They're just caught up into this movement and they like
Right.
the group or something.
Right. And they'll literally explain that, by the way. They have a different language when they talk to the normies, the normal people out when they're out protesting or whatever, because like they'll help with the protest or help with something that's going on, and then while they're there, they're trying to radicalize them. I can show you video after video of these guys explaining that that's how they do this.
we're to the
They
useful idiots.
attach themselves to whatever movement they feel is useful, and then they help that movement for a while. But while they're helping that movement, they're radicalizing people and pulling them into Marxism, socialism, and all this, right? And that's why like all the movements get you hear all this mixture of ideas, like
So it's
Black
one
Lives
meta
Matter.
idea.
You know, it's like the Black Lives Matter thing. It's like, sure, you know, but why do you want to like dismantle the nuclear family?
Like, what does it have? anything
What does
to
that
do
have to
with
do with
Yeah.
Black Lives Mattering? Like, and why would that be a good thing if inner cities are struggling and if black communities are struggling and families are like, that like they don't have the father in the home as much as in the inner cities? Like, why would you want to dismantle that more? Like, it's already dismantled in a lot of ways. Like,
Right. Black Lives Matter. It's
if
like
they matter, why are we?
every aspect of their life should matter, and let's
Right.
help and encourage
Almost,
whatever. But
it's
no.
but it's the same as the "we were born this way" thing, right? They're just using their enemy's values to confuse them because they don't give a shit about black people, but you do. So I'm gonna use black people as my Trojan horse, or we have a sense of fairness. It's not fair to criticize you because you're only born with one arm or something. You can't help that. So I'm a Trojan horse this I'm born with it way. Well, none of it has to do with any of it. Is what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, it's all. If you just go all the way back, okay, to when communism and socialism and Marxism, like back in the day, in the 1800s, this was becoming really popular, right? Then Marx got into it and started writing eventually, and his theory was economic, right? The workers will unite and rise up against the
It's not bad.
proletariat or the bourgeoisie. Sorry,
Yeah.
proletariat will.
Proletariat versus
Okay, so it's economics, and this is.
flavor to it.
I got smoking that fucking hell.
I'm gonna make the point that I think everybody has to really,
Bad
really
cigars and a good cigar, but like
get.
Understand or
the big gaps of not looking in and smoking, it's like I can tell when it's good. Yeah, maybe I can't.
The reason, like, if you just look back, Karl Marx basically made a prophecy, a prediction, okay, that capitalism would turn into socialism, that would turn into communism. It's called historical materialism, okay? And he believed that this was the course of human history. And he looked back and he said, we started out as hunter-gatherers, and then we became, then we did horticulture,
yeah.
and then we did agriculture, and then we did feudalism or whatever, and then eventually it became capitalism. And he's just looking at history. And then he said, all this oppression and all these bad things happened because of capitalism. And capitalism started when people got private property for the first time. That's when capitalism started, because then people could accumulate wealth for themselves and their family. So anyways, then he's like, so this is where he made this prediction, basically, that capitalism would then turn into socialism and would then turn into communism, because the workers would all rise up eventually, revolt, take over, and install equality, and end all oppression, and end all.
Was his writing, were they predictive or prescriptive in your,
What do you mean?
as in, is he saying, you know, we might all say, oh, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. We don't want that or say it should, but we just read the tea leaves and say, oh, it's going this way. Or is he like, no, this needs to happen. This would be good and right for it to happen.
Okay,
Does
so
that make
it's
sense?
a mixture of both of those. It's a mixture. It's obviously he believed that would be the best thing, right?
Okay.
If everybody became perfectly equal and there's no oppression at all. Okay, he believed that, but at the same time, he just believed that's the way it would end up, based on studying history, and he was watching people rising up at their,
Got that.
but it goes back to his fundamental view of human nature. Materialism is that your material conditions basically kind of change who you are. Okay, so the reason humans do anything that's greedy or selfish is because they can get private property. Once we eliminate private property, you can't pursue wealth, so therefore you'll stop oppressing everybody. That's ultimately the core belief that they have. Okay. Now, so many communist countries removed private property, and it ended up in horrible death and destruction, and the revolution never, or the utopia thing, it never happened, right? And then like Mao,
And so it's because we didn't get big enough. We didn't go global.
it's every excuse known to mankind. Okay, there's a million. Yes, that's the last one, by the way.
Because there was a country over there that was still doing the bad stuff and
Right.
we needed to take them over.
This is why they have to destroy Israel, just so you know.
And that probably got as close as anyone to like the pure form of like that, right?
Mao,
Trying to just level it out to the point of like if someone wore glasses, they were privileged. He wouldn't use those words, but let's go kill all the people with glasses.
well,
They look
okay,
smart.
so
You can't keep them smart.
this is where like we kind of got off track, but
Sorry.
that's okay. No, like it started with the money, right? Economics.
Economic, yeah, okay.
Then when that didn't really work, like the capitalist countries didn't do this. Who
of that-
did it? Who did it? Poor countries. Right? Poor countries were like, yeah, we
They would
want
have- they'd
socialism.
have the incentive
We're like
to do it.
poor and we can't eat. Like, yeah, we want our basic needs met. So the poor countries were the ones turning into going for socialism, and the capitalist countries were like,
This is working pretty good.
yeah, they're like the middle class, and we're like, I
like it.
have my own house. Why would I want to destroy private property? Like, why am I going to revolt with you? Like, so
It's a really great point, actually.
that's what I'm trying to say. Is his prediction was that capitalism would create the conditions that would cause everybody to want to revolt, to turn it into socialism. And what happened is capitalism created the conditions where people were like, I'm not revolting. I'm like building wealth for my family or whatever, right?
You gotta find new
Okay,
oppressor,
so
oppressed classes.
so that's where like the second that it wasn't working, and this is another contradiction they have that's like, the one hand he predicted it would just happen because of conditions, right? So it'll just happen. So just get out of the way, right? Shouldn't you, if you think that if you believe, this is your core belief, that the conditions will automatically get there, then you should just let it happen. And if you're right, you're right. Then it doesn't happen. And they go, why isn't it happening? And they go, oh, well, the family. That's one reason. These people are protecting their families. Here's another reason. They started finding all these reasons of why it wasn't happening. So that's why we have to abolish these things. We have to destroy them. Because these are the things that are getting in the way of this utopia finally coming.
It's like we need to reach like a rock bottom to build back up from.
Yeah, yes, very that's like
they put it that way. But
in a way it's a type of like accelerationism, but it's like, so now you went from, you just believe this was going to happen no matter what, and then all of a sudden it's not happening the way you predicted.
foundations were the economy.
Yeah. And so then it's like, okay, fine. We have to actually get involved and make it happen. Right? So that's the
We see a lot of that
this
across
pattern.
religions,
Yeah, this
trying to
pattern.
make prophecies.
That's what I'm saying. This pattern is over and over throughout.
It's gotta be true. It's gotta be right.
That's what I'm saying. So
We just need to help
this
God along.
we're gonna get to this point of utopia where, and I keep saying utopia. Like some of them will say, "I don't believe in utopia, but I just believe we can end all oppression ever." And it's like,
But that goes to how else would you define it? The fundamental presupposition of socialism is that there's no God and that humans can evolve to a state where we no longer need police and we're all going to be equal, and we're going to have this utopia. Most socialists, I'd say useful idiots, don't really understand that. But that's the fundamental premise of socialism.
That'd
Yes.
be nice, but you have to.
Like the whole defund the police thing, it comes out of that.
human nature would have to change.
Like if
And they
it was
believe that it can't
economic,
change.
fine, maybe, but like
That's the
philosophically, like it would never work
Too,
because
the last song, we went on to this one.
it'd have to go down to the individual. Like the fact that I have a locality and I'm sitting here and you're sitting there,
Might bite too much because
you'd have to have a universal need.
It's like, actually, I'll check
Like if
how
your
much it
stomach's
is.
empty and yours isn't,
yeah.
Oh.
So, like the more you try to do
you'd
that,
have to
you're
have
just
a
gonna-
universal consciousness,
Right.
or something,
Well, okay, that's actually
to get to where you're saying you're trying to go.
it's actually funny that you say that because Marx
It's gotta
took a
lead
lot.
to there.
Marx took a lot of his
Not
whole
all.
idea from a guy named Hegel.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and Hegel believed that
His
that we
dialectic.
were all essentially part of God. That God was split into a bunch of pieces all over the earth, and we are all essentially part of that, and we're all like self-actualizing
Harry Potter
to the
plot
point
holes
where
in
we'll
this.
eventually get to where we're all one again, and we'll realize we are God.
4 seconds.
It's like what
Control
Hegel
that matters.
believes. Now Marx is an atheist, so he like threw out anything to do with God, but kept like most of the rest of that whole idea.
All of the
Like the
scriptures,
Jefferson
right?
Bible.
And it's like, okay, so but humans will eventually evolve, through evolution and science and knowledge and criticizing things. That's what they do. It's a dialectic. That's why this is why they can't.
what
Again, I'm
connects
saying
like
they.
the
I know
universe is
I'm just
speaking
like
to me,
lumping
or-
a lot of people together.
Yeah,
But people
yeah.
who really are Marxists, until they get to pure utopia, would never be happy with anything. So even the best country in the world, the best system in the world, with the least oppression ever, or whatever you want to call it, is never going to be.
There's still gonna be
because I have to criticize. Because that's if we never stop criticizing. Or
So is it
at
really
some
more-
point, we will get to this place.
Is the core of it just like a perpetual discontentment?
It is if you think
Contentedness?
if you think that if you
They're just
believe
trying
that
to
there's
mechanize their discontent.
yes, but that's what I'm saying is if you believe that we can't get to this place, or we can get to this place where it all goes away, all the bad things, then it's not. They're only discontent till they get there. See what I'm saying? Like they're trying to get there, but that's impossible.
They should all become geneticists
That's what I'm-
instead of social engineers.
Well, some of them do
Because-
though. They get
because-
into every field you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's the only place you're gonna get it.
what do you mean? Yes,
By social engineering.
If you
that's literally what Hitler tried to
forget
do.
the social. No, forget the social engineering. I mean, geneticists. I'm kind of tongue in cheek, but like you said, until you can actually rewire human nature itself, none of this grouping people this way and grouping people this way. Let's put a palm tree in the terrarium and let's put a lake in the terrarium. None of that's going to do it because the problem is the fundamental human mind,
Yes,
soul, whatever their version of that would be. That's the problem.
right.
You're not going to get at that with messing with money and messing with nation states, right? I mean,
Right. That's what we're saying. Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot end all oppression or all bad. Like, you can't end all theft. You can't end. It's not going to happen. Like,
It's like atheism trying to manufacture its own salvation.
in a way, yes. Right. So you can do better.
It's funny because that's
we
what
can.
we look towards too. Like as Christians, that's what you look towards. This like idea, but we just think we could never possibly usher it in. A supernatural power has to usher it in.
Like if God does that.
And if God doesn't exist, then you're like, well, I guess it's on us,
Correct.
right?
Right. No, it really is that. Okay. So, and it really boils down to trying to become God, like trying to.
And Freud and Darwin and others along the way have all
Pitched in.
on this.
Yes. So, but what I mean by becoming God is creating this perfect situation where there's no oppression and there's no pure equality. And they'll even say this, like when they say liberation, that's what they mean. They don't mean like when I think of liberation or freedom, I just mean like, oh, so like I can just like go fishing and go like, dude, like I'm free, like leave me alone. No, they mean that we're all part of the collective and we don't have any no oppression, no hierarchies of any kind.
Isn't that funny? It's like the Christian term of dying to self. I mean, you could call it that. You're dying to yourself. Because it's the self that creates all the problems. The self that makes me want to grab some of that bacon because it's a little too close to you and you might eat it.
Yeah.
And if I truly died to myself, I would want you to eat it. But you died to yourself and you'd want me to eat it. And we'd be at this stalemate of beauty and greatness.
Right.
But those are Judeo-Christian values, which are really opposed to neo-Marxism, because
But-
they're getting at it from a whole different place.
But like that's what they want.
Right.
And granted, once they're there, it'd probably look different from what we think. But that's kind of what both sides actually think they want.
Yes. So
This
even like okay,
eradication
let's
of,
just
like-
say let's say as a person of faith that's not a Marxist or whatever, and you're just thinking of this future where we don't have all this pain and suffering,
Laser the
right?
line,
Well, scripturally speaking, like that's not up to us. We don't know the time or date, and it's not our job to like make it happen in this world. Like we're just supposed to fight the good fight while we're here. Whatever
Great
role we have.
Commission, and-
Yeah, like this is the role we have right now. Like we're gonna do that. Like, but I'm not gonna say that nobody ever got that idea. Like as a religious person that said, no, it's my job. I'm the prophet or whatever, and they went and
Oh,
tried to
all day
create
people did
it.
that.
And every time somebody, and that's that person trying to play God, trying
So
to
this
take
is
over.
just its own religion.
Yes,
and
it's
doing
its
that.
own version of that, where a person is essentially trying to take over the world or play God or whatever, and create this perfect vision that they have or whatever. Like, so
The New Age movement's doing that outside of that group, but it's super similar.
super similar.
Like I'm reading a book right now. It's like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
it's so similar.
What are they doing?
I'll tell you in a bit.
Yeah, we get off on it. Well,
Yeah,
I got.
that's a tangent.
I do want to play this.
pause the music, yeah.
Yeah, if you can
Sorry,
turn
we're
that
just
down.
pestering you with all these questions.
No, that's why I was like gonna let you guys just ask.
Super
'cause-
interesting.
Yeah, and
We
this
created
is
a signal group, and he's posted. I can't tell you how many. It's a catalog, which is actually like.
all right.
Back and look at
Can you
all the stuff.
put that up next
Signal.
to the microphone and push play? So this is sorry, real quick. This is a major DSA, Democratic Socialists of America member, and he's talking about their platform this year. The video is called Queer Marxism and Socialism. I can't remember the exact title. I'll have to get it back. But he's basically trying to explain to people why the queer movement and the socialist movement have to be one right now. Okay, and I just clipped this part out because this is their platform this year. Okay, and you know, if people tell you this isn't their goals, like just listen to their own words. Go.
You don't have to hold it up to the mic, it'll come through okay from that thing.
A revolutionary
Turn it
democratic
up.
socialist approach seeks to unite the struggle for pro-queer reforms and the defense against anti-queer legislation, and merge that with the struggle for a new democratic constitution and to establish a democratic socialist republic with universal and equal suffrage, with proportional representation, and a single federal legislature combining both chambers and the executive branch and the legislative branch, and ultimately ending the influence of money on politics.
Okay.
Luckily, with the passing of our new 2024 program,
That's their new 2024 program.
Can you break
I wrote it
break
down.
that down?
Yeah, I wrote it
What
down
he's
so I
saying?
can make sure that like especially if you can't hear it, great.
Because he threw out a lot of. He wants to merge the
So
federal
was that just the
government
dude
into
in his
one.
bed on his laptop? Is that what that was?
Well, this is one of their like Zoom meetings or whatever
Okay.
they recorded. And by the way, okay, that's what I was going to say.
Thank you, COVID, for all that, by the way.
Thank you. Right. Democratic Socialists of America, we have a ton of them in Denver. DSA Denver has
That
like
only makes
city
sense.
council members. We have Tim Hernandez and Brian Lindstrom,
They are.
and they're the ones that are doing the assault weapons ban right now. Brian Lindstrom. Brian Lindstrom is he was in the Colorado Education Association, and they passed a resolution that said that capitalism was inherently racist, and that whole thing that came out, that was Brian. And Tim Hernandez was at a rally, and he was explaining his like how he was teaching Marxism in class and going through all this theory, and then he was with his classes, he was a teacher, and how he had to start doing something about it, and then he called for a forceful cultural revolution. Okay.
This is a black guy, right?
Nope. Tim Hernandez is he's Hispanic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super outspoken guy, right?
And
Well,
then,
brilliant.
okay, so when they approached him about what happened in Israel, this was in like November, he was out at a rally and he was basically like celebrating. And they were like, hey, what are you doing? Like, aren't you going to condemn Hamas for what happened? And he like, what? And he just ignored it. And you can find all this video. I'm not making this up. Anyways, then there's Epps, Elizabeth Epps. There's a whole bunch of them that have actually been a part of DSA, or the Democratic Socialists of America. And then there's just a bunch that you can tell they're the crew. Like they all are friends, and they're always like taking pictures together. They're at rallies together. They're doing stuff together. So there's like a whole bunch of them that are all like interconnected, that have that same belief system. But so this is the new DSA. I don't know if you guys remember when this like started, like with Bernie Sanders. This is when it really got popular, is the DSA program. They were like, we're just talking about Sweden. They have universal health care, right? Like healthcare is a human right. That
President of Sweden's like,
Excuse me.
right.
full stop. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, we just want that kind of socialism, democratic socialism, right? Like that's all we want. And if you look up DSA meetings, Google or find them on YouTube, tons of the people will sit up there and be like, okay, so I'm a Marxist and I just want to, and they'll just go through it, and it's like, wait, I thought you guys just wanted this to get to like what the Nordic countries are doing. Like, what happened to that whole thing? Like now we're going all the way.
5 minutes ago.
Yeah, like so this is what DSA, their new thing that they adopted. We want to establish a new democratic constitution and establish a democratic socialist republic with universal and equal suffrage, with proportional representation. Universal equal suffrage, everybody gets to vote. Well, we already have that, but that also would, if they really got all the way, the whole world would get to vote, basically. They would all, anyway, but proportional representation, that means majority rules. That's that. Like, right now and he goes through it right before on this video, he goes through how, like, they're upset that, about, what's it called? The Electoral College.
Yeah, that's it.
Right? They're upset about all these things because this is minority rule. Okay, now, here's your other contradiction, right? Aren't we all about, like, protecting minorities from majorities abusing them and, like, oppressing them? But you want majority rule, period. No questions asked.
That feels like something you'd want like laid into the game in your socialist takeover, right?
Sure.
Because you want everyone to be thinking the same way. You don't
Well,
want,
if everybody thought the same and everybody agrees,
right.
this is why, even though a person will tell you they believe in free speech, they will always destroy free speech because people don't agree. And if you don't agree and you don't want to join us in this utopia or whatever, then you don't, you know. So like that's why that always happens. So, okay, so here's a question. Like, here's another one. You'll hear this over and over. We want to decolonize. You ever heard that?
Oh, all the time.
And what do we do when we're listening to them say that? We're like, so what are you gonna do with all the people? Because you're like gonna give the land back to this tribe over here? Like, practically speaking, how do you put this together? Like, this doesn't make sense.
That play out, yeah.
You know, you're just gonna give it back, but you're living there. If you want to decolonize it, why don't you move out of there and let them have it? Like, we go through this. That's not what they mean. They do not mean they're gonna take the land back and give it to the Cherokee Nation or the Navajos or something. They mean take it back and give it back to everybody. Okay? Colonialism, if you really boil it down to it, is private property.
Yes.
Okay? So they don't want to give it back. So it's not, this is one of your contradictions. It's like, this tribe is like, give us our land back, right? And they'll go and like, yeah, give them their land back. And then in the end, what happens when they go to decolonize and that tribe's like, okay, cool, give us our land back?
Yeah.
That tribe's screwed.
Yep.
Because they're like, no, that's not what we
And
meant.
they're conscious of this the whole time.
Right? Who?
They're conscious that, you know, I'm gonna come to you and because he used to live here and be like, we're gonna take this house back from Greg. And I'm conscious the whole time that as soon as we kick Greg out of the picture, I'm gonna screw you too.
No.
They're not conscious of that.
No. Most of them are
I'm
not.
really thinking I'm gonna give it to you.
No.
No. I'm just gonna
What they believe, here's what they really believe, is that once we get rid of private property,
me and Greg are gonna be bunkmates.
everybody will get along anyways, and we won't even have that problem where the Navajo Nation wants their actual land back.
Yeah, because we'll make
It's all
calling.
kumbaya, you know?
Right?
The Navajo Nation will be
or
abolished.
whoever,
It's
right?
not
Pick
a nation. Yeah, yeah.
I'm just, and then when they say
Yeah.
indigenous, they just mean like, they point out anybody all over the world that's indigenous to that area or whatever.
So they're probably opposed to borders and all that too, right?
100%. You can look it up. What's the Marxist case for open borders? And there's all kinds of videos, books, everything. So that's what they mean when they say decolonize. They don't mean we're giving this land back to this group because you took it. We care about the what is it? The Black Hills or whatever.
Yeah.
No, they mean but they'll never put that together because they believe their belief about human nature is that once we destroy private property, nobody will want their own land.
So will that play out
Like-
where I'm here, I get to still sit here if I want, but you can come sit on my lap or next to me and we'll scrunch together if you want, and we can move even more freely than we do now?
Yes. You just said if though. They don't even like that. Everybody will just change. They'll all get along. There's no if.
Great.
You see what I'm saying?
Well,
That's
this mass evolution of consciousness to where all of a sudden all of us are just totally fine with.
That's why today they should be geneticists. They should forget all this.
Like, do they have any like practical plan to achieve that kind of like unanimous like coexistence like that?
Just that, like you build it and it will
Practical.
come. Like once we get enough infrastructure, everyone will just say, "Oh yeah, this is what I've wanted all along."
That's the plan.
That's it?
That's the plan.
It's freedom over force.
So we're
If they have the best idea, we'll get it through force or however we need to get it. But in the end, everyone's going to love it.
It's like
it's
all
gonna
our
work out
moral
just fine.
We know
problems are
what's
because of
best.
private
It's
what's
like
property.
that. We know where we're
And
going. You guys don't
this
know
is
what's
gonna
best.
hurt, but you'll thank me.
So it's like
Yeah.
Thanos kind of mentality. Like
And if you don't,
I have to do this for everybody.
So all moral problems are caused by
Thanos is
Private
a great
property.
That's a great.
I'm not joking. They'll literally go. This is so private property created the patriarchy, and like any bad thing,
the
they'll
patriarchy.
try to make a case of why private property started that bad thing.
So how come
And
I
so-
can't touch you? Like, how come they're deep in the like? They'll defend. I mean, they're the ones behind all the sexual harassment and the Me Too stuff too. Is that just a destabilizing tactic?
What do you mean behind it?
Well, if there's any way to boil down private property, it's your own body and mind. And
They wouldn't say that.
Huh? They wouldn't say that.
No, your body is part of the collective.
Well, no, so right. So, but
Private
like,
property
but
is a house
If
or
I'm like, if I'm owning houses and stuff, but like, so they shouldn't my own body be?
You're not an individual. They don't believe you're an individual.
But
ultimately,
But I guess, but that's what I mean. If you're not an individual, you don't own your body. You got a nice behind. I should do what I want with it. And who are you to say that I shouldn't?
You don't own your
It's
own.
not your body. It's my body, and
Well,
we share it together.
But we're not.
yeah.
But because private property doesn't exist anymore, you won't want to do that.
yes.
No, I don't.
Like, but that's.
I don't want to own your body.
But seriously,
I just want to hang out there for a little bit.
I'm not. The thing is, this isn't like that's where most of them are at. Like, they don't. I haven't heard them all like, yeah, now I can take advantage of everybody or whatever. Like,
But shouldn't
it's
that
just,
be the like?
it
Why
happens.
shouldn't I see a nice looking girl at the bar? And how dare she say not do what I
Okay,
want with her?
we'll go the
body?
other way around. How dare a person who's gay not sleep with a person who's trans?
Sure. So they're
I'm
So
telling
there-
you, it's
there's-
practically built into the.
so they're starting that.
It's just natural. It's just part of it, right? If one group is a minority or one group feels oppressed, then they can say you're being phobic. You need to do this, basically. Like, so they can,
And when
so
you fully understand what private property is, it's not just your house. It's not land. I mean, it is land, but it's your thoughts, it's your ideas, it's your patents, it's your business.
so
They
there's-
gotta hate
okay,
patents.
so
They
there's
gotta hate
some of that. Yeah, that gets confusing because
your
some of them.
conscience is private property.
I know
they'll say you
libertarians
can,
that hate patents.
right. Well, some of them will say like you can have personal property, like you can own a TV,
Close on your mouth.
yeah, that kind of stuff. But you'll have whatever you need,
Yeah.
whatever personal property you need, because it'll be supplied for you from each according to their ability to each
To
according to
their
their need,
needs.
right? So you'll have whatever you need when it comes to personal property, and then like some of them will say no, you can't have like your own ideas, but then they make all their money off of books and off of like,
I know.
so
The Abraham X Kendies out there.
yeah, sure,
I don't see how
yeah.
you could hold on to that by getting, if you got rid of property. There's no way you can have
It's
a
what? How
copyright.
do you define property? That's really
So it's really just whatever I own,
cap.
I want to keep that, but you gotta share your stuff.
No, nobody gets to own a house.
So it's like
Nobody gets
I
to
don't
own
own a
land.
TV.
But how do you-
We all own a TV.
Yes.
That's got to break down to the TV.
But there's
level.
enough. There's abundance. There's all the TVs that anybody could ever want.
All the TVs.
But Big
Why don't we
Brother
just
will
make?
watch you through your TV too.
It's Earth.
But what
from
if we
Star
made all the houses?
What if?
But they'd stand against that.
Say it one more time.
So you said there's such abundance. There'll be so many. Everyone will have their own personal TV. Great. Why would they stand against me if I said, why don't we just build a house for everyone? They'd stand against that, right?
There will be houses. They just
Yeah, but
won't
not
own
my house. But
You
you
won't-
have a TV.
People will come and go as they want, use whatever they want.
it, basically. And then you'll have you won't even have
It'll
a
look-
kitchen.
It'll look like an ant farm.
There won't be a kitchen in your house. The kitchen is a communal kitchen. And
That's interesting. Like the
because
insect
any
kind of
form
model.
of labor you should get paid for. The labor theory of value. Anything you do,
Right.
you should get paid for. So you shouldn't be doing dishes. You shouldn't be doing any kind of work in your house. The kitchen, the communal kitchen, is going to cook for you, and those people are going to get their not paid, but they're going to get their whatever it is for their labor.
And there's communist regimes that have attempted that on different scales.
How do they see AI playing into their plan?
AI. Some of them don't.
Like maybe AI will clean all the dishes.
Are they like pro tech?
human?
Some of them are
Walking
pro tech.
dishes
Some of them aren't.
Okay.
So the pro tech ones are like, this is kind of what part of Marx's theory was, in capitalist countries would evolve enough and get to this place to make it possible, to make it work. Well, if you take that towards tech and towards AI and everything else, it's like they kind of latch onto that and be like, see, this will work to create equality and we won't have to be doing all this labor, like
the Terminator will do it for us.
exactly. Like, so that's a whole vein of it. And then there's people that don't want any tech or, yeah.
I was thinking the other day about like old sci-fi movies from like the 50s and how like whenever there was like an alien race that like visited Earth, they all dressed in the same like outfit,
Like
all in
the
the
weird
same
metallic
uniform. Yeah, because like
robes.
they were one. You know, it's that same kind of Star Trek. It's the same kind of concept, right?
Yes, it's just like the way they're trying to do it right now is through maximizing diversity, but you end up creating kind of a group of people that are very similar and they all think the same, right? Like, so you end up with not diversity and you end up like
Well, makes sense.
attacking.
Try to erase like identities. And in
Yeah.
the process, you create new identities.
Yes.
But the attempt is to erase.
The attempt is to the attempt is to get to this ultimate place where there's no, where you're all everybody's a gender, everybody is the same. We
There's
are
a
not.
bunch
We're
of
all they.
Bald,
Literally
mulatto
they.
looking. It's
Which is Huxley's book, Brave New World.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And you take a little soma to kind of deaden the pain, but
that's what I mean. That's where he went.
sex
Like
with everyone,
I should
but you
sleep
don't
with
get
anyone
married.
I want.
yeah.
Right. So you can do whatever you want except get married and have kids and have a family and
It's like
do
the-
like you can't do that.
The free
Because
love.
that kind
but
of
you can
leads
do
towards
whatever you
ownership or something like that's my kid.
You can do whatever you want, but own a home and build a business for yourself and like
But
you
if
can do
you-
whatever you want, but
But if you happen to have a kid, it is not your kid.
oh, absolutely
Canada
no.
set that up
So
right.
no.
yeah, Canada's
So
right there, right now.
It is
look up the book. It's called Full Surrogacy Now. Okay, abolish the nuclear family.
Full surrogate, yeah.
Okay,
So
you
all
don't have
sub out,
kids.
Sub out pregnancy.
Nobody has
to-
kids according
nobody
in
has
that.
kids.
Like,
unless it's like your profession.
you get paid.
And
The woman
eventually,
gets paid.
you'll have like artificial wombs.
No, see, that's exactly what she goes to. She goes, you know,
Why wouldn't? Yeah.
it should be surrogacy, but man, they start imagining like, what if technology got to that point where we didn't even have to have surrogates anyways?
Yeah.
Because, you know, a baby is committing violence against the mother by even showing up in the first place.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, I'm not kidding. If
No,
you
they
listen
say
to
that.
her, this is literally, so, and that, her name's Sophie Lewis. She's at the Socialism 2024 conference this year. She's been touring around, and her book's been all over on.
Sounds lovely.
It's so
You should have her on.
We could get
yeah,
rid of women.
but and this is DSA is one of the people or one of the groups that like is promoting this conference. The conference is brought by Haymarket Books. It's in Chicago. Haymarket is a straight up like Marxist book publisher. That's Haymarket, Verso. There's a few of them. They're the ones, and they're all on the list. If you look up the Socialism 2024 conference, you can look up all the names of these organizations. And it's in the same building as the Democrat Party conference like 2 weeks later in Chicago. And Sophie Lewis, this lady that believes that, you know, we should have no mothers having their own children because babies are committing violence against the mother by showing up and the mother's having to do labor and they're not getting paid,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So,
Just to keep the baby.
Yeah, exactly. She has a kid.
right.
It's not her.
So are they?
Yeah,
So
Sorry.
are they? Are they statists in the sense that like the state will set this up? Or maybe they're using the state right now to do it, but is their end game like, and then the state will be puppeting everything, or once the state sets the infrastructure up, humanity will see this is awesome. We won't even need a state, so we can abolish the state. Like, do they worship the state?
It
or is
depends
the
on which
state
one.
useful?
Like, there's different groups on that, but that is like that is ultimately you have to go there, where what Marx called it is there would have to for a time, for just a period of time, there would have to be the dictatorship of the proletariat. Okay,
until everyone kind of gets it for a generation or two, or
they say
5.
10 to 15 years.
That's all? Dang.
Once they can get.
Oh man,
Once they can change everybody's
they are optimists.
once they can change everybody's behavior for 10 to 15 years, then the dictatorship of the proletariat can go away.
10 to 15
We'll have
years.
evolved human nature enough in that time.
We'll change-
that will not need this.
We've changed the material.
Have they read Darwin?
Once we've
10 to
changed,
15 years?
yeah. So once we've changed the material conditions, and maybe however long, let's just.
No, I get it.
But
I'm-
I've literally heard
I'm
them
being
say.
an ass, but-
Yeah, I've literally heard them say
Sort
10
of
to
a
15 years.
generation, but-
Yeah. So once we've changed the material conditions for that long, then people will change because they
Because it'll be so awesome. Like, why would you want to go back?
that kind of thing. Yeah. That's why. But okay, so this is where you always run into the problem. Is okay, it's not happening. The dictatorship of the proletariat. What does dictatorship mean? Well, it's the dictatorship of the masses. What did you call it? Tyranny of the majority or
yeah.
something. Yeah. So
That's,
whatever that majority decides goes. It's dictatorship. What's a dictatorship?
So
Period.
there's 10 to 15 years
No
of the
free
purge,
speech. Nothing.
and then the 5 guys that are left will get to be happy.
One way or the other, right? And so, but that's the only way to get them to finally get it, right? Is we gotta strong arm for a little bit, then we're gonna let it go.
Okay, so like,
Okay.
we don't like oppression, but to get out of it, we got to lean hard into it first.
That's the Thanos thing. Like,
Well, and that's what they're doing, like breaking down the nuclear family now and all this other stuff. It's like, breaking the egg to make the omelet, right?
Yeah. Okay.
yes,
Sort of. I mean, granted, a lot of the things they don't think should exist anyway, but they seem to be willing to do the work, even if it means
so there's
people get hurt.
yeah, and there's different groups, right? Like, so there's groups that they just want to go and do a real revolution right now and just make it happen.
They're hot after it.
This one was in New York. That I don't know if you saw them on social media, like parading around with the hammer and sickle and all that. That's them. They're like, we're Trotskyists. We're ready for a revolution, and they're going to capitalize on how many young people actually are supportive of communism or socialism right now, and they're ready to do it. And again, you can look at the videos for yourself.
Yeah.
Listen to the dude. He explains the whole process, like how we're gonna infiltrate all these different institutions and unions and everything else. But then there's the people that are doing it through
long
in the long march through the institutions. They're doing it through getting elected.
So that makes sense. So
through
that's
being a
so-
bureaucrat. Through
And they're like Xers and Boomers, huh?
sure, but there's the young
I just mean like that generation of like, we can do this now, and it's like, son, wait, there will come a time.
kind of yes. So there's two different yeah.
Within the same, like they want the same thing. They just have like, we can do this.
And oh, by the way, this is why they hate the Democrats. By the way,
I was gonna ask
they
you,
hate the
what's their
Democrats.
relationship?
Like, they hate the leadership of the Democrats. They hate traditional liberals or even people that are just like kind of progressive or moderate. They hate them.
Is it because they don't
Because
go
those
far
people-
enough, or they oppose?
They don't go
true
far
liberals?
enough. They don't go far enough.
In some ways, they're just like a mirror of the Republicans.
They're
with
well. They call them. They
similar
call it.
flaws.
Oh my gosh. Not neocons. Neoliberal.
Liberal?
Neoliberal.
Okay.
So they call them they call this the neoliberals because if you notice, a lot of the Democrats are bought off by
Yeah.
corporations.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
because
it's
they're-
true.
because the only true
and war
capitalists
and they're
left
and a
are
lot of
Democrats.
the corporate Democrats are like pro-war and like they'll fund all this stuff
Pro big
like
tech, pro big pharma,
all the
pro
things,
big-
right? So there is this like left side that's actually mixed in with the industrial complexes and getting all this money, and they're not actual socialists.
But somehow Democrats think they're friends.
No, they know they're not.
They know
I mean,
they're not.
They just
Bernie
keep
got
it.
like shoveled to the side.
Yeah, look what happened. Look what they did to Bernie. They literally like
Oh, they got rid of that
jacked
guy.
his campaign in the primary.
But they let
Right.
Bernie like. They won't come out and say like they will a Republican. Like, look, these guys are not it. They'll kind of
No.
let them hang out,
You-
and then just kind of like nobody look. Oh, sorry, I
Yeah.
tripped you, Bernie.
But maybe they're like kind of serving the same thing a little bit.
I really believe that they keep
Why do they
the
keep them
far
around?
left at bay enough. They keep them just happy enough that they don't actually revolt. Okay.
So the Democrats are
So-
scared of them.
Yes, I guarantee you,
And the Republicans are too dumb to be scared of them.
the Republicans are. Well, this depends. Again,
Because
we're talking
Republicans
about a
see them as
monolith.
one and the same. Like from the Republican view, they think they're the same thing.
Yes, that's the problem. We're confused. We're not dissecting it all. Because who wants to sit through 7 hours of queer theory and like, okay,
This guy.
yeah. So
3 months be pretty easy to.
who wants to do that? What psycho? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, every Republican knows that, a run-of-the-mill Muslim is not a run-of-the-mill Democrat. Can't they
Yes.
differentiate
Some can, some can't. I just think in general we're confused, and we're just trying to lump it all together, right? Which that's why I've been trying throughout this is to I know I'm saying they. I want to be more specific, or we just have to divide it all out because then you'll see okay, they're not all the same, right? Obviously, just like conservatives aren't all the same, and so this, I'm specifically talking about socialists and people that call themselves Marxists. That they might actually also be anarchists, anarcho-communists. They kind of all blend together a lot, which is really hard to figure that out. But they're the radicals. We'll just call them the radicals versus your corporate Democrat, neoliberal person. Call it that. And then just like on the conservative side, you've got your neocons, right? Your pro-war, pro-pharma, they're all, those people are the uniparty that everybody talks about. They all get money from this game, right? And they don't.
They just kind of wear different jerseys.
They don't.
For fun of it.
Oh, they play back and forth and act like they're doing something, and then they don't actually do anything, right? And then we're all like, "What are you doing? You're supposed to represent." Anyway.
Yeah,
exactly.
So that's that group. They're basically the same, and they don't represent the American people. They represent their funding, and they represent all that money in Washington. And
it's like the true oppressors, so to speak.
Kind of, sure, on a macro level, but we have oppression happens all over the place in a million ways. It's not like it's only through government or only through corporations or only through monopolies. You can get oppressed because somebody just doesn't like you. Like bullying at school.
Well,
I got
one of us
bullied
can be
for
talking
what
over the other
reason?
one in conversation.
Literally no reason. This kid just decided to bully me one day and just went off on me and laughed and threw me into a wall, and a bunch of people laughed, and literally he was my friend the day before. No reason. He just decided to do it. It wasn't he got in I didn't do anything to him. There was he was a little stronger than me, I guess. I don't know, Anyway.
That's the only reason he dared to do it.
Sure.
Because of private property.
It was because of private property, right? He
Parenting can be oppression.
Everything.
Oppressive.
What is that? But so that's we just recognize that humans sin. Humans have this ability to do the wrong thing, regardless of, and you don't have to be a Christian to recognize that, at all or anything, right? You can
wrong,
that just humans do sometimes really bad things, and for many reasons, not just because of private property. There's,
but as Christians, we understand.
We understand that, so that's why we're not trying to create utopia, because we know that's not possible.
Right.
And it's not our job to do so.
And it's not our job to do it, right? So even if a person isn't a Christian, is James Lindsay or a bunch of these guys, they will say something like, okay, I'm not a Christian, but I do believe there's all these natural laws that function, and I can just observe those, and I just know we didn't make them.
Yeah, they're so close.
Right? I know.
Brett Weinstein,
right? I feel, but it's I didn't make these laws, but they're here, gravity, all this stuff. All we can do is observe it and operate with it.
Douglas Murray, the gay guy who
he's in Europe.
Yeah, and he's what they call a cultural Christian. He likes the non-religious aspects of Christianity.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty much everyone living a decent life right now.
Oh, well, yeah. Don't really know
He's a
what
cultural Christian.
A
lot of those guys.
So, but at least James Lindsay said something really cool the other day. I was all right, this is at least he just said we all the reason we ended up kind of in alignment on this is because generally Christians don't believe they are God. Right? And so he doesn't believe there is a God, but he also knows that there's these natural laws and orders to things, and that he can't control everything, right? And that's one of the founding principles of the United States, right? So if you listen to that, I'm gonna go back through this. We didn't even get through the whole thing. This is really where this gets real perfect, actually. Okay, we already said this: equal suffrage, proportional representation, and a single federal legislature combining both chambers and the executive branch and the legislative branch. Now,
I think he's going to collapse those identities too
Yeah.
into the board.
and it says ultimately ending the influence of money on politics, which, by the way, I would support figuring out how to end the money influence on politics.
Throws that in there.
But okay, let's go back really quick. Sorry, I left it. Combining both chambers, so a single federal legislature, so not like Congress and the Senate,
Yeah.
Right?
They're gone. They're one thing.
combining both chambers and the executive branch and the legislative branch. That is literally centralized power.
Right. Separation of power
A
is
giant centralized power that's supposedly going to serve the masses, like that. But that centralized power, like, this is why this goes bad every single time. And how was the United States like in the beginning? What's the difference between centralized power, separation of powers?
Yeah.
That's
So
the whole point.
as imperfect as the country is, as
Right.
imperfect as like it has been, the concept of separation of powers, because of understanding
Yes.
that if you centralize the power, you're screwed.
Yes.
You're jacked because somebody's going to take advantage of that, and some psycho or some group of people
soon as
are
they
going to.
have-
But their presupposition is that no one will do that.
Yes,
Are they
because.
saying that they wanted
Once we
cheap?
figure it out, and let's reckon.
But that's why it went wrong every time. This is why, like when you study USSR, Lenin, he showed up and he's like, "Well, they're not doing it fast enough. I need to do it for them."
Yeah.
And they had already centralized the power,
Yeah.
so he just took control of that centralized power, and then he like became like his own like god and started doing horrible things and murdering
Then 100
masses, like
million people died.
all this. The Mao, same thing.
Same thing.
He became like a sadistic. Like he liked to see people suffer, sick, sadistic person, and he started doing more crazy things than
Human
that.
experiment.
Like yeah, and
Did you say this was their mission statement for this year?
this year, that's what they're working towards this year.
Good luck.
Well, it's not like they're gonna get there this year. They're doing it through the legislative process, right? They're doing it one law at a time, one thing at a time.
You guys are right though that like this is like the Achilles heel of any type of socialist movement every single time it happens.
Centralized power.
Yes.
But if you could
Before
stack the
you-
courts and you could stack the Senate, then very quickly that majority power could then just turn into one big power.
Yes, but then they say it.
Well, that's the point.
Yes, you're talking about the how they could do it through
Yeah,
the
a
system.
mechanism,
Yes. Rather than a
Even though they
revolution.
hate the structure's there, they'll use it until it gets them to their end goal.
Well, see, that's the difference between the democratic socialist and the like revolutionary socialist
We still have to get to World
Trotskyist
Economic Forum,
guys. Oh yeah,
which is another.
that's a whole different monster. So, but that's what I'm saying. These guys are literally trying to do it from the legislation, and this is their like. I didn't make this up. Like you heard the dude. You can
Right.
watch the video.
This
It's
isn't
like
some boogeyman
no,
you came
like
up with.
totally. This is. But so if you centralize the power, if I could look back at like why has the United States lasted and been prosperous as much as it has, like I know there's been like times where the United States have gone to war and taken oil and done bad things, but
We've also probably prospered.
but before, well, they hate that, but
I know.
we'll get back to that in a second. The fact that there's separation of powers. Everything you hear this. It's just like a constant battle to centralize the power. You just hear it all the time. We got to get rid of this. This is a problem. Blah blah blah. Like the United States, we're different. We're 50 states, right? Counties, districts, cities, all have different authorities. Then you get to the federal level, which was supposed to be really small, and it's just massive. But you get to the federal level, you got the judiciary, like it's 3 separate branches. Then there's 2 legislature that they're a check and balance, plus the president can veto. There's like all this process that bogs down corruption as much
by
as possible
design.
by
Yes,
design.
to make it slow.
To make it slow and hard and like
Arduous.
yeah, like why do you think Trudeau was like, I really like how China does it?
Yeah.
Because they can move fast. Well, I can get what I want now. I don't have to. It's like, dude, this is the point of setting it up this way, is to make it hard and slow so that corruption can't just take over in 2 seconds. So you're not centralizing the power, and there's always this battle back and forth. So, you know, when it's like, for all the failings of our country or whatever, that was not one of them. Like, the separation of powers was because of human nature. That's the reason it's so important. Even if at times we end up with somebody we don't like as the president, or somebody or Congress is being run by the other group, it doesn't, like, that's better. It's so much better. I would live through that than a dictatorship of a dictator or a proletariat or any dictatorship, period. I don't want any part of that. You know, because then it's who gets to say what, especially with technology. Oh my gosh.
Technology's been bypassing that.
Right.
In your research, have you come across any like arguments or evidence for private property causing all of these things, or is it just like an assumption and they're hopeful that abolishing private property will fix all of our problems?
Okay, so one is the way Marx put it. There was a guy named Morgan who was studying tribes.
Okay.
And he wrote books about how the cultures were in the tribes.
Okay.
And like,
Don't do it.
right? It's hot. In the tribes, they didn't have like what, you know, they didn't have like a nuclear family or whatever. They didn't have farms, like where there was a farm and this family owned this farm. They were hunter gatherers. They were doing horticulture. They did some like growing of food, but
I need to fill it out, but you can use mine.
but those tribes, you know, he just was noticing that the tribes just didn't function like Western society. And so they will point to that and say, see, you know, the patriarchy started when people got private property, even though like there was a chief of the tribe. And there was never, hardly ever, a matriarchal tribe in history that's ever been documented. There have been almost all patriarchal tribes through, but
there's been a lot, but they like fail quickly.
Right. So
they've never been like notable.
yeah. So they'll bring up something called matrilineal, which basically matrilineal means that the male passes his inheritance down through his
Daughters?
Through the mother. It's like hard to explain, but through the daughters, yes, because it's hard to explain. This one guy went through it, how they felt like it was
just reverse patriarchy?
no,
That's good
because the male was still. That's why they call it matrilineal.
Well, because the male is the one that probably acquires all the stuff. Like, let's be honest. And then he passes it through his daughters.
Yeah. The reason.
Sounds good.
One of the guys said, like, the reason they pass it through the females is because.
They're more apt to share it with everybody.
It was like his sister. I think that's what he said. They passed it through the sister because they all kind of slept with each other, so they didn't know if their kids were actually their kids. Like, so they had to like only do it through their blood sister.
Okay.
This kind of thing.
It's kind of like what Jews follow through the female because they would certain stuff to.
But if you think about like pure conservatism, there's these Judeo-Christian values that transcend time. And these are like they're God principles, which a lot of people aren't comfortable with that being injected into politics.
Yeah, they can suck it up and deal with it.
Yes, but our politics, to a certain extent, was built on those Judeo-Christian values. Then we know that human nature doesn't change. We know that mankind is sinful. And if given the opportunities, we're going to seek power and want to control people, and that's not right. Right. And so let's create a system where there's checks and balances, separations of those powers, because through human history, just that want for power.
Yeah.
And so our founding fathers, flawed as they may have been, I think were inspired, God inspired, to create this system, this constitution that we have. And when you look at where America is in the history of the world, best country ever established with all of our flaws. But that just, it doesn't, when you think about the foundational principles of us compared to the Marxists, diametric. And
Okay, so this is why, like, I was bringing up the natural law thing.
right.
Because, like,
That can't be
You
a
don't-
thing in their world, right?
well, they believe in a natural
it's
law,
fluid.
but it's the one that it's materialism,
Right.
right? Your conditions decide who you are, not human nature. Like, this is just how it is. Like, but you can, like, there are people who aren't Christians who get that.
Yes.
Who understand, like, that's why you get, like, even like Gays Against Groomers and all these other groups that are like, no, we shouldn't be doing this with little kids. Like, whether they agree with Christianity or not, like, we still end up in the same, like, fight.
We know it's
Like,
wrong. There's something.
Yeah, there's
wrong
something
about
innately
that.
wrong about having a kid literally be mutilated for the rest of their life and not able to function.
Yeah.
And without really knowing that it's happening to them. Like, they don't really have informed consent. Like, so people can recognize that, like, this is a good thing because they're seeing, like, this natural law that exists, right?
Without acknowledging God
Without
as
saying I'm a
yeah.
Christian or I'm Judeo or anything like that. So, real quick, you were saying, like, we were talking about how the United States has plundered some places.
Oh,
Totally not cool. I'm not supportive of that idea.
sure.
I don't want to be in war for dumb reasons like that. Like, in fact, a lot of that has created animosity and is creating more war, which will never end. So I don't support that. But what does that have to do with capitalism? Ultimately,
No, nothing, because that's what everyone's done since
imperialism, they will say imperialism is because of capitalism. Just because a capitalist country did it means that that's what it is.
Right.
No, Russia was building a global empire, like, but they were doing it by helping other countries set up their. But, like, what imperialism ultimately, if you really want to boil it down to, is about resources. Period.
Isn't that what all this is?
This
Who
is
gets to control the resources and who gets to divvy them out?
when you get to the.
gets to sit on top
Depends
of
on
it?
who you're talking to. What I'm saying, like, they imagine a world where, like, it's like that won't exist, right? Like, okay. But what did Mao do? Well, he made the farmers, like, work overtime and produce more, and he took their resources and he sold it off, and then they all starved to death. like, but if you need technology, I don't care if you're in this socialist utopia where everything's fine and everybody gets along. What is technology made of? Precious metals.
For now.
It has no.
I'm just
always. I'm saying it's good. Copper, lithium. Okay, like metal. Where do you get metal? From the ground. What if you don't have anywhere you're at? You're gonna have to go somewhere else and get it there. So if you're gonna have technology, you're going to be getting a resource somewhere. So where are we doing, like, all these solar panels? We're saving the planet. What are we doing? We're enslaving people in all these poor countries that have lithium and copper and all this. Okay, it's happening right now. In the whole green energy movement is full of crap when it comes to
Cobalt mines, when you look at what they're
it's
doing.
literally like human slavery is how we have our phones. Okay, right now, and how we have solar panels and electric cars and all this stuff. Because if you need resources, you go get resources. Okay, now I don't know the solution to that. I obviously don't support that.
Sure.
I'm just saying, like, in your utopia, you're still gonna have to go to that place and get the copper. And if people are living there, you have to kick them out because that's where the copper is, because you need it for your
Yeah, but your
whatever.
utopia will have taken over the world, or else it won't be a true utopia.
Yes,
And those people will be glad to say, "Oh, you need copper? Oh, here it is. I'll help you get it."
exactly. People will just automatically go,
And then we'll
sure,
be nice
I'll
enough
move.
to say, Wait 5 minutes. I'll go make an iPhone.
Like
I'll
I
get you
just,
one.
yeah, I just
I'll send
spent
one over.
17 years building this farm for this commune, and now you're gonna eradicate us and kick us out, and none of us are gonna ever have a problem with that. And like, you know, so I'm just saying, like,
Because they'll all benefit from it. That's the idea, right?
if that was,
Well, they'll all
the case,
benefit
yes.
equally. There won't be poor countries.
Right, they'll benefit, yeah.
We'll all have an iPhone.
Yep. And so
But it's got to be a global.
it has to be.
It has
Did
to
that? Okay, so two
We
things.
might all have to take turns in the mine, too. I mean, I don't know.
But we won't care.
But it will be great.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Good iPhone from it.
Well, that's the point, right? Like, okay, we're gonna set up this mine here. We got to kick everybody out of the area that lives there, right? And we got to have workers to mine it. Well, what if people don't want to do that?
I'll go
Too
work in
bad.
mine. You live in my house.
Too
for
bad
6
you're a
months.
part of the
That's good.
collective, and we need workers for this. So get in the mine.
But in Star Trek, everyone did their part.
Right.
Even the guy wearing the green shirt that died in every episode.
Yeah.
He was doing his part.
Right.
The green shirt guy.
So like utopia.
So the global thing.
He always wear a green shirt.
This is why.
So you knew not to get attacked.
If you go to the Socialism 2024 conference site, it's got a Palestinian flag on the front.
Nice.
If you look at right now, it's all about Palestine. All these protest marches and everything, the vast majority of it is about Palestine. Free Palestine, and it's a genocide, right? They're calling Israel genocidal, and
Colonials, genocide.
colonialists,
All the
yes,
words.
all those things. But every time, if you just look it up, what's the Marxist case for supporting Palestine? Even though, like we said before, if there was an LGBTQ person that went to Palestine, they would get killed for doing that. Why are we still supporting Palestine? Because Palestine is going to help destroy Israel, which Israel represents capitalism in that part of the world.
Yeah.
And that's helping to destroy the United States. Okay. I took a screenshot of one of the protesters in Denver. This was one of the big ones that brought the rally, and she said, "Abolish Israel, abolish settler colonialism, abolish the United States, abolish all these things." And so, if they can help destroy Israel, here's the other question. We're like, well, if you like all these ideas, why don't you just move to Sweden, or why don't you just move to some other country that does this stuff?
Because someone somewhere is having fun.
Right? Well, the answer is because the reason socialism never worked is because the United States and capitalism caused it to fail. So we can't have it until we destroy the United States. And they'll say that we are in the belly of the beast. Here, the United States is the most evil thing in the world to them, and they have to
It's
destroy
like you live
it.
in Tatooine, the Empire's still out there.
Right. So they have to destroy. So that's why they have to destroy Israel, and that's why they have to destroy the United States to turn it to a socialist state, so that then socialism can flourish around the world, everywhere.
The other thing, this one big bully is always kind of like, another one?
Your call.
Yeah.
I know. We're going deep here.
If you're doing it,
it's kind of required.
I'm doing it.
How long have we been going?
When I changed the battery, we're like an hour and a half.
We're good.
We're about a 3-hour podcast, but leave whenever you need to.
We have
got
been a
time.
5-hour
I left
podcast
my-
against
we-
our
people-
will.
This is fascinating.
Yeah, I
Like terrifyingly fascinating.
I like having the insight. It's really
Well,
nice.
So, sorry.
It's good.
it's one of the reasons I did this.
Okay.
Like, I wanted to clear up like as many misconceptions and things as possible. Like,
Sure.
why do they do this? Why do they support that and that? Why are, like, we always look at these weird situations and we just don't understand. Or we just like laugh, like, that's dumb. Like, who does that?
They
You
don't
know?
know what they're doing.
Yeah,
This
that
is
kind
a
of stuff.
stupid, retarded analogy, but I'm trying to grasp your stuff, right? Because we run businesses and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just one big they have this one end meta goal, world domination, all the crap. But
Liberation.
sure, yeah, world liberation. And we see these conflicting things. Is it not just like your lowest level janitor guy in your business is like, well, hey, Dr. Greg, how come you're spending,
I'm gonna steal
$10,000 on XYZ? That's pulling money out of the coffers. I thought a business is supposed to make money. Mm-hmm. And you're like, yeah, but I spend this $10,000 and I'm gonna make $1 million. Is that what they're doing? Like, they're making all these alliances that don't make sense in the short term because their end goal, some of it see it in 200 years, some of them see it in 20, and some of them see it in 2
The
years.
issue is never the issue. The issue is always a revolution.
A little bit of that.
Yeah.
So
Gotta come back.
Like,
I'm telling you, almost all of the contradictions are that. That explains the contradictions, most of them. Because it's like, why do you all of a sudden hate gay people who got married and did what you helped them do? Like, why is it? Why are they homonormative? Like,
What's fascinating
yeah,
is they do all that. In a sense, they're just raving idiots, but in a sense, they're brilliant, right? But they understand human nature extremely well, or they wouldn't have these tactics, while simultaneously misunderstanding human nature profoundly.
again, the material conditions, right? They believe that we're all acting the way we are because of the material conditions we have right now. But once they change the material conditions, the human nature will change.
Yeah.
So they do they get
They
a lot
know
of
what,
that, what's
what
happening.
they're in right now. They just know this isn't man's natural state, and we can change it.
Correct.
I honestly think that makes a lot of sense with their worldview because when you don't have consciousness and we're literally just like a meat computer that is reacting to its environment with no actual like person that's like there's no soul, there's no person forcing the body to do certain things. We're just all reactionary. So getting rid of those things that they see as immoral, we won't be reactionary in a negative way anymore. Is that kind of the thought process maybe?
Once they change your material conditions, that will automatically happen.
Right.
You will those things will change.
Yeah. We'll start functioning
that's the,
normally.
Collectively.
Same brand.
Collectively. Together.
Yes.
Yes.
That's why Darwin's so helpful. Really, right? To that cause, Darwin's
And-
extremely helpful because you boil it all down to like chemical reactions or something.
And that wasn't even like necessarily completely what he was trying to do. I
No,
mean,
not really.
just kind of everyone latched onto him as like, look,
He makes
You're like, we've been
we
looking
don't
for an
need God
excuse for
anymore.
this stuff.
Yeah,
There
exactly.
it is.
Exactly.
Well, Pastor Tim preached a couple weeks ago, and he mentioned the Matrix.
Yeah, I remember
Of course,
that.
I went back and
I
watched
remember
the
that.
Christian Matrix again.
The first time I've ever heard the Matrix used as like a sermon illustration.
Yeah.
He's working on a sermon series called Stranger Things,
Him and Andrew Tate.
which when that comes out, I'll send you a link to it because I think you'll enjoy it. But I mean, the Matrix in a certain sense, right? Like maybe you don't have the machines running everything, but you've got the Marxist structure running everything. But if everyone could just be plugged into the Matrix and just be happy and content and live their life, and you don't need to worry about the stuff going on out there. I mean, that's the world they're trying to create in a sense, right? Heaven on earth. But there's a few of us that are awake to the Matrix, and we're problematic.
Right.
Like us noticing.
There's different matrices, right, coming at us, like different groups that want to do essentially the same thing. They want to take control of the collective.
Right.
Like I was saying, the neoliberals, neocons, the World Economic Forum, how much propaganda do they put out on a daily basis through the mainstream media? It's like nonstop. And it's like psychologically telling you these things that aren't true all the time. The bloodbath thing. You guys saw that.
Oh, yes.
Trump said something about it's going to be a bloodbath if I don't get elected.
Economic bloodbath.
And then I've seen I got a whole video of clips of all kinds of media people saying bloodbath
Using that
in
term.
different contexts a million times. But once Trump said it, it was the most evil thing you could ever imagine, and even out of took it out of context, and now the word bloodbath means war, like all this crazy stuff.
It's a MAGA term.
Yeah, but you can go back and they said it over and over and over. Trump, Biden said it in different speeches. So when you see that, like, you go, who's doing this? like I don't like everything Trump says. I don't agree with him about a lot of things, but like, who keeps, every time he's running for election, they take words out of his, and all of a sudden it's the worst thing ever, and then you actually read it for yourself or listen to it for yourself, you're like, that's not what he said. Like, so who's doing that?
And you know he's doing it on purpose too. He's
And
using
so
words
you're
like that
so just to
because of that.
what you mentioned, the Davos guys. These are not these guys.
No,
They're
Great
different.
point.
no, that's what you really gotta get. They're not the same. They hate each other technically, or these guys
the Davos
definitely hate
guys
them.
are like the capitalists on steroids.
They're the cronies.
Yeah.
Crony capitalism on steroids.
They're like what it looks like when you remove God, you keep the capitalism, and you just go for it and oppress. And
They
make as
are.
much money
They
as you
want
can.
to be God. They believe that it's their job to organize society and to decide.
But in a
what
different way
happens.
than these guys.
In a
you're
different
talking
way.
about. They're also God,
They'll run the tech companies. They'll run the pharmaceutical.
but they're like individualists, right? Is that the main difference? Like I'm God
Yes.
instead of like weird God.
Yes. No, seriously. That's the two different. Like, the more you study them, the more you're like, this is how they think it's their job to run the world. Like, and then you follow the money, and it's just like, man, you know, COVID happened, and all you guys just happened to make billions and billions of dollars, and then all these countries just happen to follow the suggestions
And you
that
may
you
or
guys
may
all
not have made
It's
COVID
like
happen.
magic, like totally, you know.
Everyone said 6 feet apart.
Yeah, like,
everyone said mask
all of
on.
that, like-
Everyone said 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and where did all that come from?
Yeah. But then you follow the money and stuff, and you're like, okay, it's like this weird group in Davos.
But even then, they still
Super-
say you'll own nothing and be happy.
Okay,
There's still a certain
right.
level
I was
of
going to get back to this.
Private
So,
property issue there,
yes, so
But that's because it's going to be my property.
and I'll rent it to you.
yeah, that's
We're
the
gonna be
difference.
like they
right?
want to go back to the.
They
feudal
are going to
system.
own all the property, which
I always read them as like they're old school. Like they read old school European stuff, and they're like, "Oh man, I could be the monarch. I could just rent a farm to you."
globally, basically,
But globally, except they wear ties. and
who's
stuff
buying
instead of platform shoes or
an
whatever.
absolute ton of land in the United States?
Gates, right? Well, all those guys. Yeah.
Like buying up all the
Right,
properties.
so they want a feudal system,
yes.
and but your guys don't. They want a new system we've never seen, or that we've tried and it just wasn't big enough.
Right.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to explain. They're two different ideas. They end up in the same place with a dictatorship.
We thought we had one
of-
enemy.
Right. No, and that's why it's
Ideologically.
again why it gets so confusing. So,
Feel free to grab more blankies if anyone.
yeah. So, imagine during COVID. I'm sure you heard this a million times. Do this for the greater good.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So the radical left hates big pharma. Hates big pharma, like
Because they make a lot of money.
because they're capitalists, right? They make money. Except when it comes to something like a vaccine,
What?
right?
You're getting into that. What is-
When it's a vaccine, big pharma couldn't possibly ever do anything bad with that, even though they've done a million other corrupt things and we hate
What's
them.
that about?
It's collective medicine.
Have fun slinging chicken.
Try do it for the greater good.
So as long as everyone has to take Tylenol, Tylenol's great.
Yes. So anything that's for the collective
But doesn't that
good,
make big pharma even richer? Like they can't like that.
Still, but they don't even. That's complete blank spot.
Okay.
Like Pfizer and these companies made billions and
So they're
billions of
ultimately
dollars,
retarded.
billions and billions of dollars, and they did it by saying, "Do it for the greater good." And the radical left, which are collectivists, ultimately obeyed.
So
What
the,
did they obey? Their master.
So the
Their master is collectiveness. Okay? So it doesn't matter what they tell them to do for the greater good, they'll
as long
pretty
as
much
it's that
do it.
language. So the
Because
Davos
that's-
guys duped the socialist guys.
Yes, 1,000%. I brought this up to him. I was in a chat. I was like, dude, you realize that Pfizer made a lot of money Do you think the big pharmaceutical companies aren't corrupt? Like the capitalist pharmaceutical companies aren't corrupt? He's like, oh, they're super corrupt. They're so messed up.
Except
they
for
do
when
all
they're
these bad
making-
things. I'm like, yeah, but like, except for vaccines, like, or anything else that they, you know. And I'm not like going on the anti-vaccine thing. I'm just
No,
saying,
no,
like,
you're good.
I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna ask questions about all,
I don't even know.
Colorado.
like, they don't care that those companies made billions and billions of dollars off the vaccines at all.
So it's kind of like
And-
us when someone who we'd say is otherwise evil has like a, you know, God bless at the end of their speech about killing people. We're like, oh, he loves God. We're good.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes.
You
So,
know,
but that's what it
it's
is.
that
It's
phenomenon.
because it's like it is like a religion if you really boil it down, and the master is the collective. So
That
if
makes it super sci-fi.
right, so if somebody says do this for the greater good, there's no questions asked. You don't get to ask questions anymore. You just do it.
Do you think
Like-
too that maybe there wasn't so much buy-in to like the vaccine's going to save the world, as in let's see if we can get everyone to do it?
Like this is a
It's
great
almost
experiment and they're running it for
like
us.
a corporatist experiment of let's just see if we can like get everyone compliant for this.
Oh, you're talking about from their
perspective,
the pharma perspective.
like Davos and all that. Are they all just
Yeah.
like? Because I mean, you saw the videos where they're all wearing
They're-
masks, and the camera shuts off, and they all take their masks off.
Right.
It's like they don't really.
That's the Davos guys because they don't believe.
No,
they're not
they know what they're
collectivists.
doing.
They're individual.
Right. Well, that's
I
what
am
I'm saying.
supreme
So,
leader is.
right. So that's why I brought it up. Like, they know that the collectivists will do whatever they recommend for the greater good, right? And so, but the question, what they're really asking, I think, is how many of them are there? Like, how far are we? You know. Because if we go
Is it
ahead
go
and say,
time? Okay, it's not quite go time.
Here's why. Like, wear a mask, or masks don't work. Like, you'll touch the Fauci thing. Oh, you'll
Remember
touch your
that?
face.
Masks don't
like,
work at first?
Like,
Oh my goodness.
all the science shows that it doesn't work, and then 5 seconds later, he's like, everybody's got to wear a mask. And
Wear 2 masks.
right, wear 3 masks. Like,
Just a big thing of science.
but
says
what
to
is
see.
that? That is, how do I get you to accept this idea, even if it doesn't actually do what I'm telling you it does? Will you comply?
Will you comply? Yeah.
Will you comply because it's for the greater good, because we said so?
Right.
And once you can get to that point of like psychological manipulation over people, then what won't they do when you tell them to do it, right? And so I really think that was like a test run, and it's a way to advance the agenda further legally, right? How far can we push the Constitution?
Sure, they
Can
both.
we take away? We can take them out of their church if there's an emergency, right? We can take them, and they did. They tried to shut down churches, right? And then churches fought
They did
back.
a
and-
darn good job of it.
Okay,
for a while.
so it's like how they pushed the boundaries of the Constitution as far as they possibly could, and then people started filing lawsuits and like kind of kicked it way back. But it's the
so they're
what, that
both.
rubber band theory or whatever. Like they
Right.
stretched it and it came back, but it didn't stretch all the way back. So they got further
Yeah.
than where they
They
were.
shifted the Overton window.
The Overton wind.
And
Yeah.
that seems obvious, but what was not obvious to me was that it's 2 rival factions doing it.
Yes. And read the Time magazine thing where they said about the election. We built a giant coalition of all these people to save democracy. Like,
How about saving democracy?
they talked about how they even got like Antifa to stop rioting basically for the election. No joke. Like, they got them all unified,
That's a good point.
right? So it's like they
How do you
kept.
wrangle in Antifa? Yeah.
Okay, so this
Skills.
this gets real
Mad
crazy.
skill.
You know? Antifa is not organized yet. They'll all start and stop very simultaneously around the country, like almost at the same time.
Oh,
Isn't
yeah.
that
It's more
interesting?
gaslighting. They're not organized. There's no
Pallet of bricks.
This goes back to
pellet of bricks. I remember.
honestly, Antifa being not an official organization. I believe it goes back to the McCarthyism.
Yeah,
Okay,
agreed.
like we can't form an official organization. Like, and when you listen to them, they're literally telling you they're Marxists. They're literally telling you they want a revolution. They explain all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like they aren't that, and they do it through, and a lot of them do it through violence. Like, okay, so But they can't just officially set up some organization that claims these things, because then the government will have to shut it down. So they keep loosely connected, but then like when there's a cause, they all come out of.
So they're like a grassroots Soros.
Yes.
Like the NGO thing is like a more organized, and that's that route. They're even less visibly organized than an NGO.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it's the same. It's the same concept.
Yes.
Make this officially unofficial.
Yep. And one of our misconceptions is that they're just like getting paid.
Because then they
Like they're getting paid by Soros, or they're getting paid by somebody.
and so you're
like,
saying they just believe.
This is what they believe. Like they do book clubs. They'll. Sorry.
It's funny.
So is there a lot of
no.
money behind all this or no?
No.
No, that's
That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like they'll do like a book club talking about this book, and they'll get 7 people in a Zoom chat or at a coffee shop or something, and they'll all go through this book, a book like Ibram X. Kennedy's book, or I don't know, pick one, right?
It's
Okay.
all
We
these-
had one of them
Yeah.
try to do it in Dia a few years back.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Okay, that was what they did. They brought in a left-wing activist book to their classroom, and it was part of something that.
The book stays in the classroom. It can't
Yep.
go home.
And but it was only that book about this subject. And I said at the meeting, I was like, "You're not going to bring in another book that kind of like is an opposite to like let the kids get both sides of the
balance.
issue." What?
Wow, we do
They
that.
didn't even think about it. They were
Well,
like,
why would your pastor read out of the Bible and then just say, "Not everyone believes this. I'm gonna read out of the Quran for a little bit"? Like, why would they do that?
"Yes." I mean,
When it's your religion. yeah.
right. So this is in school, right? This is in a classroom.
Well, school that
publicly
we've all faux pretended is like this neutral place, but like no one else has agreed to that. Only us.
That's
idiots.
the illusion. That's the illusion that you're facing, is that it's neutral, even though they'll literally only bring in the left-wing activist book and not bring in the conservative book that kind of balances it out or brings up different viewpoints, right? That goes back to this.
And they're not using like structures to do that. They're using our passivism because we've bought into the neutral thing. The Normandy has. So then we just say, well, I guess I can't.
In a
not
lot of
let
ways,
them do
yes.
it.
So there, you got to be careful. Like, okay, we jumped from Antifa into the schools.
yeah.
That's okay.
Like, there's no Democrat on high that's saying, yeah, put these books in. We're just all kind of like, well, we agreed to let it stand off. And then they're like, well, shoot, we'll do it. And they're just,
In a way, yes. Like, so go really quick. Go back to the Antifa thing. That's okay. That's okay. If I leave something,
Yeah, no.
yeah, I know if
Finish the
I
Antifa
leave
stuff.
something, we're gonna
flesh
forget.
the
And then, like,
Antifa out.
okay. What I was saying is they'll do a book club, right? And then they'll just go through this book, and then there's like 4 people in there in the meeting who like aren't radical socialists. They just think it's a book about Black Lives Matter or about gender theory, gender something or whatever, right? Then they'll go through the book, but while they're going through the book, they're like, and by the way, like, it kind of like, it's usually because capitalism's bad, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not joking. If you watch them, they'll go through this whole gyrations of all the stuff, and then they'll like, and it's kind of like, like from the beginning of capitalism, and like, they'll just do that, and then they'll get back into like what they're okay. So I'm just saying, like, this is what they believe. Like, it's not just some dude paying all these people to go out and riot or whatever. Like, when it's time, you should read the Antifa handbook if you have questions. He explains the ideology. They'll say, we're not about violence, but violence has already been committed on us. Or, I'm not going to tell somebody not to defend themselves, but I'm not going to tell people how to protest. That's up to them, But then you watch, and when you watch them, what do? They go on and they bait, and they bait, and they bait until somebody responds, and then they go crazy, and they go burn stuff down, right?
So
And
they're saying they're just pure proselytizing people, and they're just better at it than we are right now, or others are. There's no big. It's just another competing religion, and they're doing their thing better than we are
yes,
in the moment.
well, and the core of it is in the universities, like at this point. And so that goes back to the history of like after the Frankfurt School formed, it moved to New York, to Columbia University, yeah. And then from there it's just they've been spreading all over. Not that there weren't people that were already socialist here, but like that's where the Frankfurt School was, again, go listen to their own words, it's not me making this up. It's basically like, because it didn't happen through the workers revolting in the capitalist countries, it's going to happen through culture. Okay, there's all these other forms of oppression. And so then that started branching out, which eventually turned into critical theory, critical race theory, and on and on and on. So through the colleges, through the universities, because we have free speech, people have been pushing these ideas for a long time. One of the main guys, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name right now. Marcuse, I think is his name. Herbert Marcuse. I watched this interview he did in like the 70s. Okay, and this was after the big movement in the 60s, the radical movement in the 60s that happened. A lot of it was at the colleges, right? They were basically saying he was like the grandfather of their movement. He was like their hero. And he was one of the original Frankfurt School founders. And in this video, he's like, honestly, I didn't even expect it. Like, they just picked up my book one day and then everybody spread it around. And like, he was just kind of like a professor just saying what he believed. And then some of these people picked it up and then it just took off into the movement and mixed his cultural Marxist movement or ideas into the movement. I was saying, if we get to the schools today, what you got to be careful about is like, I talk to so many teachers, and the vast majority of teachers are not being political. They're not doing this. They're not radical socialists. Like, some of them might be more liberal or something, but like,
yeah, there's a diversity of where they're coming from.
Yeah, and they're not even political. Like, what I mean is,
they're doing their
like
best
socially a little bit
to do this.
They're
neutral
socially
thing we all pretend like we agree
right.
on. Yeah. Okay.
They're not like constantly focused on politics and revolution and all this stuff. So when you talk to those teachers, a lot of times the conversation is like we have so many other problems than this politics stuff you guys keep bringing up. Like, and we're not even doing that. Okay. And like, I have a video which it's not loud enough, but it's a teacher literally explaining how she radicalizes her classroom. We've seen it all over on libs of TikTok and all this too. But this lady, she's like, I'm a Marxist, and like explaining how she radicalizes her classroom and how she gets it into, and this guy named Paulo Freire.
Does she use the word radicalize?
Maybe not in that video specifically. I can't remember the exact word, but she's explaining how she's a Marxist and how she's getting her class to be active.
Okay.
Right? And she even says, like, it just gives me a lot of like courage, because there's so many organizations and other teachers around the country that are all out there that like, she explains this whole thing. And like, so what I'm saying is, that's not most teachers. It's just most teachers that aren't political, that don't even think about this stuff, they just don't realize it's happening, right? Or they don't realize when it comes into their curriculum that, wait, what's intersectionality that's on the Colorado State website right now? It's part of the Colorado Education Department website. It's called Intersectionality, which was made by Kimberly Crenshaw. Kimberly Crenshaw was a critical race theorist, like straight up from the 60s, okay? And she came up with the idea of intersectionality, and that's what the socialists all use to talk about these issues of culture and these intersections, which I'll tell you right now, she came up with one in the very beginning that like actually kind of made sense. Like a lot of this stuff, like there's some like nuggets of truth in there, right? Yeah. It was like something like when I can't remember exactly. It was like a Hispanic woman. Somehow this law like left her out of this case that happened. She's like, that's like an intersection. So then she's right. So then she just built this entire thing that intersectionality explains everything all the time, 100% of the time. And that's why it's so crazy, because it's like, no, it doesn't always explain everything. Like, you know, every situation is different. That's not how law works. That's not how, you know, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. Like all these principles that we have, that doesn't mean there aren't scenarios and situations where laws like really disproportionately affect certain people in different ways, but that doesn't 100% of the time explain everything. And that's the problem, is they take it to that. This explains everything. Yeah. But once it became a useful tool, right, it started being used and spread around, and it's illegal. It's just a legal analysis. It's just a way to legally analyze. So if you were to use it in a non-religious, non-crazy way, you would say, okay, in this situation, is there one of these weird intersections that's causing some problem with this? And you could analyze it, look at it from a bunch of different angles and be like, in this situation, no, but maybe over here in that situation, it actually did. Like, we need to work on this law. There's a weird language that like messes with kids that are this age, or I don't know, whatever, like some group, right? But they don't do that. It explains everything. It's always this, all the time. And we always have to divide into all these millions of intersections, and it never ends.
Right.
And it's like, that's when it becomes insane and untenable. Like, you can't keep that going. It's just crazy. But yeah, so that's where we got to be careful with the teachers or people. Like, I'm showing teachers these people who are literally explaining what they do and how they're political and how they literally say they can't be neutral. That's the Paulo Freire, one of the sayings that he said in Pedagogy of the Oppressed or something. He's like, nothing's neutral, so you might as well not be neutral, basically. Even though like our system literally says it's supposed to be neutral. You know, we have rules in the district that say like a teacher can't, you know, put their political beliefs in the classroom. Or do things that only support their political beliefs. And they have to allow kids to get other resources that aren't from their viewpoint. You know, like we have rules that make it more neutral.
Is that a flaw in our thinking overall? Misunderstanding of human nature? To expect that millions of teachers across the land, they're all going to be neutral because we say so. If you have a belief, and you really believe it, and you think it's important for these young people to understand that, you're going to do it. The law or cultural assumptions be damned.
Yeah, I mean, I just think a misunderstanding we've done is just handing that kind of power over a kid's mind anyways in the first place.
Sure.
Like, why don't we teach our own kids a lot of history? Why don't we read, not like when they're little, but like, why wouldn't we read Mein Kampf and these different crazy things that have happened throughout history with our kids as they're getting able to understand this stuff? And why wouldn't we go through and look, this is why this went bad. This is why this went bad here, right? Why wouldn't we be preparing our kids for, okay, if your teacher is political, number one, let me know, you know, and here's how you combat some of that stuff. And if they are, like, we know the laws and they can't do that or whatever, like.
But maybe that's what I mean is like, it goes so much deeper than like, okay, so we've got all these bad guys doing this stuff now. But we set a system up that was like, of course this was going to happen. Maybe it'd take 100 years, but it's going to happen. Because we subbed out our education to the state.
So, okay.
We made all these weird assumptions that the state's just going to be like, oh, we're neutral.
Right.
And then some guy was going to say, well, shoot, there's a big vacuum there. And I want to push my thing, like we all deep down want to push our thing, and I'm going to go for it.
This is the
That's just
problem with
gonna happen,
centralization. whether it's education or economics or anything else, once you centralize something, bad actors can manipulate it, right? So, and once you destroy the options, destroy the ability to choose to do something else, right? Then the bad actors have a captive audience, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, so if you have one federal education system and a bad actor or a political person that wants to push their ideology down through the system, they can do it from the top, and everybody has to participate at some level. That's so, like, go ahead, sorry.
Something that you were saying a bit ago, like, why shouldn't we like be letting our kids read Mein Kampf when they're, you know, able to understand that kind of stuff? The assumption that a lot of parents make once they put their kids into public school, and I think it's just the zeitgeist of America, is, oh, my kids are getting educated at school, I don't need to teach them.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
but, and it's not.
And that's an assumption that people need to break because they need to realize that that's not healthy.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, like, yeah, I just brought up Mein Kampf. Like, this is how evil Hitler was. This is why
Right.
he somehow got to this point of
And
going
as
down that
parents,
crazy
we can
road.
teach them in a nuanced way, one-on-one.
Right.
Yeah.
And but like, pick anything. There's just the point of, like, here's what I do is I just send my kids to this place, and whatever happens there, that's education.
Yep, they're learning.
And
that
if it's
ends.
good or bad or whatever, it must be good, right? I'm gonna assume that it's always
Must
good,
be good, my
and
tax
that's
is
that, and then I'm not gonna, like, know what's going on. Well, so now if you just play that out over time, I talk to teachers all the time, and one of the biggest things that they say is, like, we can't fix everything. Like, there's so many problems. These kids, like, some kids don't have parents. Some kids are passed from family to family. A lot of parents don't pay attention to what's going on, and they're not involved in their kids' education at all. And it's like, like, the system told everybody that it was gonna be what it can't.
It's gonna be the mommy and dad.
It's gonna be the full education of the child, and it can't teach all morality. It can't teach everything. Like, it's not possible. But, you know, if you believe that it can, then okay, so then it goes further, right? Because we as a culture handed our kids over to something else to educate them. And like, my kids go to school, okay? I'm not saying not
Sure,
kids shouldn't
yeah.
go to school, but I don't, like, we teach our kids all kinds of things, and we talk about what they're learning, and we go through it up and down. Like, so, but because we just said, go to school, and then they get home and we go, here's the TV, and, like, okay, we're just letting what the world take over their mind, whatever it is.
Treat it like a glorified daycare.
Yes, exactly. Because of that, well, a lot of parents aren't involved. A lot of parents aren't paying attention. A lot of parents don't know what they're learning. A lot of parents are like, "What? That's why I pay taxes, right? Like, I pay taxes
And
so that you guys
and
will educate the kid. Like, isn't that
From
the
a
point? Like,
they perspective, it's kind of like, look, you've given your kids over to us in every fashion possible, except for, like, they sleep in your house. Can we just stop the charades and say there are kids?
but you're really,
From
like,
the
you're
Trudeau
close
things,
to where
it's
they're
like,
at.
there are kids anyway,
But that's really what they believe. Like, when I say they,
and we've acted it
I
out.
know I'm-
So, like, we're all in agreement
Complicit.
through our actions and through what they're just coming to the logical conclusion of, like, can we just come out of the closet and say we own your kids because we've owned them for a long time?
Check them in when they're in kindergarten, check them out when they're a senior.
And then we're like, oh no, but they're my kids. Like, really? I control all their programming, I control their schooling.
And that's why, like, some of the kids who have, like, come home and had parents either ask or they show their parents, like, this is what I'm learning in school, and the parents are like, what the hell is this crap?
Which happened under COVID for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, and the parents could see it on the Zoom meetings.
Yes.
And then that's kind of like what I think the, crack that broke the dam a little bit as far as, like, awareness of what's going on in schools is parents being like, wait a second.
So is that kind of good? In
Yes.
some ways I see,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
the COVID phenomenon, as much as it sucked,
It had good and
it
bad
did that,
reactions.
and so maybe
Yes.
we're poised to make a change.
The pandemic revealed everybody's true nature, for better or for worse, I think.
think so,
There were
too.
positives that came out of it. Because a lot of veils were
You
pulled
had,
away.
you had closet tyrants that were just waiting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are just like citizens walking around. All of a sudden, if you're not wearing a mask, like they would just berate you. It's like, oh, where have you been? Mm-hmm. They've just been waiting for it.
The little old lady that never had the personality or the stature to be a tyrant suddenly had the state backing her up, and now she's a big shot.
Never made it to HOA president.
Yeah.
But here's my chance.
But now here's my.
I'm gonna do it.
My thing is like, we've already like forgotten that. I mean, in some senses, like we should. I don't know. It's not that we need a list or something, but like we should have a mental list of like, now I know who I'm dealing with. We can't go back to you being a sweet old lady again.
That kind of happened just generally.
Yeah.
Like people are collected into their own tribes a little bit.
And some people got red-pilled and
And a
kind
lot
woke
of them,
up and
yeah.
realized what was going on, and
Yep.
others doubled down into the tyranny. And
I
Enjoyed
cannot,
it.
I
Do you see
cannot
any-
tell what has shifted, like as far as like people going this way and that way since the pandemic.
We're still kind of like in it, I guess. So we're
Yeah.
still figuring it out. But
I think so too.
because we've been.
do you have
we've
any
been on pause with
prescriptions for
Biden.
like, here's a chink in their armor, let's attack that, or not yet? I know you've been not studying this for decades, so, but
I think I kind of have. You know, like we've
love
all
that.
been kind of like, what is going on? Like, just always had it in our head. But chink in the armor.
what should we be galvanizing and aiming at to reverse this?
Well, I mean, we've already hit on some of it. Like, okay, what you just said. Don't do that. Don't hand your kids over to somebody else.
Great, great start.
At the
just
very least,
don't.
ask them to
What is it? The Vody Bachman quote?
That
Hand your kids over to Rome and be surprised when they turn out Roman.
right. And, but like, really, it's like that is. This is. It all comes back to, I think, laziness. To be honest with you, but
Yeah.
it's hard. Fighting against collectivism is really, really, really hard. Because it sounds so nice and it's so easy and it's just like, oh, we'll just all get along and we all get our stuff paid for and like
It's all fueled by sin.
everything will be, yeah, like, and on top of that, it's like, well, I mean, the school will just do all this education stuff. That's a lot of hard work. I don't have to do that. And like, but no, like if you want to, if you want to raise your kids and teach them goodness and teach them to be critical thinking and all this, like, it's hard. It takes so much work.
And so much of that really should start at home, regardless of whether you have
That's what
kids
I'm
in
saying,
public
yeah.
education
It's-
or even if you're homeschooling. I know some homeschool parents are like, hands off, please just do your studies.
Right.
This is a lot of work.
Sure. Or doing online and being like, here, cool, go get on
Because we're
your
still in
computer.
that mindset. We're just
you're-
homeschooling now.
We don't
So
want to do the work.
At least you're not
Like,
being bullied now. So
You can learn
that's
from
a net
Rome
positive, but
at
At
home.
home. Learn from Rome at home.
put it on a t-shirt.
Oh man.
That's hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
It's true though, man.
That's, yeah.
Like,
It's we have to do the hard work and we have to get out of the victim mentality. It's so funny how, like, okay, if you look at conservatives, we have this whole thing of like, you just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and you don't make excuses and you just get the job done. And then we play the
Darn
victim
too.
all the time about the fact that we handed this whole thing over to
Yeah.
everybody and we just didn't, you know, like, so I'm just saying to everybody, like, quit being a victim, quit crying, do the work.
So
Like, and that's a lot of work. It just never ends. It's like, but that's how you, sorry, go ahead.
Can I be not PC? You'll appreciate this.
I'm not
That's
busy at all.
not what we're about here.
Yeah, dude. You
So-
better use the prescribed language.
So like, I'm a real estate photographer, so I've been like inside people's homes a lot.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you the number of homes I've been in where it's like, the man is obviously, it's a single income home. The man is, you know, making all the money being a general contractor, whatever it might be. He's, you know, got the gruff appearance. But then the whole home is like this, you know, beige, earth toned thing that the wife has, you know, made. And there's the Hobby Lobby decor all over the place.
Black love.
Exactly. And so a lot of
I'm gonna go
this,
take that down at my house right now.
a lot of this is like, you know, biblically on the women, I think, because like if you're a woman and you are not willing to, not necessarily homeschool, but even like, you know, check in with your kids afterward, a lot of that is on them. And if they're not pulling the weight that they should be in that regard, it's because the husband hasn't like instigated that kind of like value or moral, right? So like I think that it should start with the women, but ultimately it's the men who should be able to be like, you know, we need to actually like,
Well, so what you mean is it starts with the men.
So biblically,
as in we've
I'm just
it's
saying- I'm just-
subcontractors all the way down.
I'm
I'm a man, this is my home and my household, but I'm gonna sub the beige color to the wife,
I'm seeing
and then she subs
a lot
the
of
kids
that.
to the school, and the teacher subs what we're really
Right.
going to talk about to the curriculum
I've
or
seen,
whatever.
I've seen a lot of men sub out leading the family to the woman, and with no like interaction with the wife and the mother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just like, okay, you take care of it, and then the woman doesn't have any guidance. She doesn't have like her husband's guidance in the marriage and in
Or
the
like
family.
physical help
Right.
with doing that work.
Right.
So then we get bitter and back and forth and like
Exactly.
Okay, so I've been going through this whole like what is wrong with the American family thing for years, like really trying to figure that out, and like a lot of it it goes back to the Industrial Revolution.
Yes, it does.
Honestly.
Yes, it does.
We're all
So-
Marxists at heart.
No, that's not what I meant.
I know what you mean though.
It goes
It jacked us up.
It's-
I mean, right?
But no, I this is where like I need to hit this Marxist this part of that.
I
on that.
wanna,
Okay.
Yeah.
Back, Marx was analyzing why the revolution wasn't happening and all this, and one of the things that he really hated was the family because of this. And one of the things he said, he noticed these communities that he called them peasants, and he was mad at them basically. Like he wanted to get them into the cities because they weren't part of the workers. They weren't part of this group that was going to revolt, right? And so essentially, like a peasant is like a small business owner, okay? Or like a small farmer. Well, do small business owners want to revolt and turn the whole country into a socialist, blah, blah, blah? No. So why, like, because they're trying to build their own thing, right? They're trying to take care of their family, build a business, whatever. So it's this is why there's such an antagonism to small businesses, even though that's like the most, if you want to democratize the economy, small businesses, okay? Not corporations, not government, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, but what I'm saying is like, when you go back to the peasants, he even said they were living communally. Okay, so just think of like how the Amish live. There's the family. Usually it's like the extended families living in the house, like grandma and grandpa and like cousins, maybe. But then like one of them goes out on his own and he gets his own little plot, and what happens? The whole community comes over there and helps the guy build his house.
Let's raise a barn.
Yeah, we raise the barn. We
Yeah.
do this, right? So the Amish and a lot of peasant cultures from the past lived in this mutual cooperation, and the families were all like connected and they helped each other. So Marx looks at that and he goes, well, they don't want to revolt. So I have to that has to go
Because they
away.
already have achieved the
And I know
utopia.
that's what I'm saying. Like,
What a-
if he would have said, like, right though, but that's what I'm
asshole.
saying. Every time I read that,
They're already living it.
I'm like, you're saying that they're kind of living the way but because it's
What a
not
loser.
right. I'm like, so that's why it's so destructive when you take the totalitarian view of anything. Okay, if people just wanted to live in a commune, like I'm a communist, but I just want to live out on 10 acres with 27 people, and we just
6 wives and we'll have fun.
So if
You
Marx
see what I'm
had
saying?
gotten
I would
laid,
be like-
none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to say.
I would be like, cool, like go
girlfriend.
out there, like have a
Take a
ball,
shower.
folks, like do whatever you want. But no, he's like, no, that's like bad because they're not revolting and they're not bringing in this totalitarian full on equality and end of all oppression, like my vision, right?
Complacent.
So where he looks at, I'm just saying, okay, that was actually really good, how they were living, the peasants. Like, there's a lot of good things we could take from that, I think, that if our society would adopt some of that back, we went to industrialization where, again, you become a worker. Again, like, he wanted people this is where it's like, I'm not blaming capitalism. I'm talking about industrialization, where you need tens of thousands of people working in a factory instead of out on a farm.
The men who built America's.
Like
in World War II, so a lot of the women had to go and work and make the bombs and make the things and type the things.
Well, the guys were out at war.
Yes. Yeah.
So, okay, so, you know, the man goes to work in the factory, mom's stuck at home with the kids, and then that just became like the delegation you're talking about. Just naturally, like, I just don't have time. I have to work all day.
Yes, completely.
So, and over time, that just got worse and worse. Like, the man just did less and less of raising his own kids and being part of that because he does his job. And then he pursues...
To where now, as conservatives, we, like, look back at that as the good old days of, like, men should just be out working and the wife should be home. Instead of an integrated... Right? Like, that's what our ideal, and you're like, that's what started this whole thing. Sucks.
It's a very short-sighted view of history.
Right.
Instead of your son right next to you working on your craft together.
That's what I'm talking about.
Whatever.
Okay, this is what I'm saying. Okay, so for whatever reason, when we went to factories and stuff, which honestly, Marx,
Which is a centralization of
right,
micro.
everything, right? So, and I'm not like, there has to be some of that, but we can't all live on a farm. But if we did,
theoretically,
things would be a lot better. To be honest, no joke. But just the concept, just think of this idea of, like, your kid goes with you as soon as they're able to do something, and they're just a part of it, right? And then while you're there, as you're doing it, you're teaching them wisdom, you're teaching them life skills, you're teaching them whatever, right? And like, as a Christian, you're teaching them scripture, you're teaching your kids as a family,
anything, like whatever you do,
whatever, right?
They're doing.
And instead of this model, the reason, like, it's like it happened at the same time almost, like the schools became bigger and bigger, and you know, and then guess what? Women have to go into the workforce, right?
Because this factory thing just keeps eating more of us.
because of a lot of reasons, right? Because of the whole feminist movement, because of the fact, like, cost of living. Like, there's a lot of reasons.
Like, it ate itself, and it just needs more and more and more.
Right. So, which, like I'm not opposed to women going to work or anything like that. Okay, I'm just explaining, like, this is the process that happened, right? So then, when mom and dad both go to work, now you really hand the kids over to whatever, right? And so it's just like degrading more and more and more and going the wrong direction that way. And which, thank God for COVID, actually, and for all these people waking up and going, oh my gosh, something's wrong with this whole thing we're doing.
It's why
like,
the UBI thing makes sense from their perspective, because eventually maybe it'll take another 100 years, you'll need kids to work too, just because our economy is so retarded that two people won't be able to fit in. So I'm gonna have to move in with Greg, and
if we keep having insane inflation and just printing money like it's nobody's business, the cost of living
and physical labor is less valuable.
Yeah. So this is like what I've been doing. I have a huge garden, okay, and every Friday I only work 4 days a week. I set my job up so I work 4 days. Every Friday, that's our, like, garden day. We go out and do whatever, plant, harvest, build beds, make compost piles, I don't know, whatever we gotta do. And then on top of that, like, I do different types of work. If it's in the summer or if it's when they're off, like, one of them will come with me. I'm, like, always trying to include them. I'm teaching them these skills. My kids know how to run an ice cream sales thing like nobody's business, okay? Like, they can serve customers. They can count the change. Like they're all over it.
Talk to adults.
Oh yeah.
And I really value that about your parenting too, because you try to do the same thing with your kids.
We're trying to, but you're right. You're figuring out in a no man's land, right? Because everyone's like, that's dumb, or they don't get it, or whatever.
Right, the books you read to your kids at night, it's like
That-
most parents are doing.
Right. That's what I have noticed is that when people see it though, they get pumped. They
Yeah.
love it. They're like, look at what your kids are here. Like they get so excited because our culture threw that away for whatever reason. And so like we have to bring that back in whatever way we each do it.
Yeah.
On top of what you're doing, like reading books, studying things.
What was it?
like
What was it that you were reading to your kids? That thought the cover was interesting.
The cover?
Yeah, you were reading some like
time we were together.
self-help economic business book to them.
Oh,
Like Art of the Deal or something.
it wasn't Quick and Nimble. It was. Shoot, too many cigars. It was some book on like how to basically like treat your employees and stuff, like how to build a business culture.
And he read it to his kids because they thought the cover was interesting.
Yeah, because I'm like, pick a book, and they're just like, oh, this book, and I'm like, really? Like how to build this corporate culture, and they love it. Right now, we're actually reading Solomon Says. It's published by some small publisher. It's basically this guy kind of like analyzing Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, for like teenage boys, and I don't have any, but it sparks a lot of conversation. That's
yeah.
cool. But
We need more of that.
That's what we need. Like that's what we need on top of like we were saying, why not do something during during a certain part of the year and do like a Constitution presentation or like
the whole month of July. Just like,
that's what like
we kind of do thematic stuff.
what do
like
we
that.
do?
Yeah.
We go out and shoot fireworks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're like, why are we doing this?
Up.
Oh, looks cool.
We go blow stuff up and drink, okay? And we don't.
America.
That's what
we
it's
don't.
relegated.
This is what's wrong with America. Instead of like going like it's July 4th, let's read the Constitution.
Right.
We go and blow stuff up and drink.
The kids just got back home from Rome, and now let's go.
Yeah.
Let's
So
go.
like,
Oh,
yeah. This is what I just. There's so many
while the Marxist
patterns.
people are probably doing
While
that.
they're doing
doing
that
that.
all the time. That's the thing I've learned. I'm like, these book clubs and they're studying and constantly going through theory and like they're doing this all the time.
So our kids are just like fertile ground because they're almost vacuums, basically, because we're not planting anything in
Right.
it.
Well, and they want that stuff.
Yeah, they want to learn.
Right.
We bought the Total Twin book series for all of them.
You're making me all
Read through
bummed
those.
because I do bring my kids to work. They have like kind of like days because I have 7 kids now. But
God bless.
which is
quiver is full.
which is so awesome.
Yeah.
But it's like you're running out of like days to bring them to work. But this last 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm too stressed. You can't come to work. I've got to do this, which is terrible because they should be there anyway. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah. I also think the idea of a nuclear family, like, you can go too far into that and like not have like your grandparents involved in your family, like
Yeah.
aunts and uncles and cousins and all this.
I agree
Like,
with that too.
so if you just think of the peasant model, right? Like, and if honestly, I work with a lot of people that came from like Mexico or other countries. Like,
what do you do, by the way? Sorry.
I do a lot of things. I'm just
Sounds like
entrepreneurial. Let's
Sounds
just
like
say
the
that.
County Liberty Report.
Yeah, like I don't
No,
get paid
that's
for that. Anything.
That's the best too, though, right? You kind of like you have multiple projects. Hopefully, some of them either give you a good chunk or passive stuff, and you kind of mix it together.
I freelance. I do ice cream, but I have that's like my route or whatever. But then I've built houses. I've done electricity, the plumbing,
Yeah.
and
How many kids do you have?
I built gardens for people. Like, I have friends that like, hey, I need some help this week. Can you help me? I'm like, yeah, I can do Thursday, and then they'll just pay me whatever they pay me. Like, I just kind of do whatever. Yeah.
He's a Marxist.
Look it up.
Three. What?
I said he is a Marxist.
They're paying me. and I'm using it to buy my house. So, like, and I'm not a.
That's good.
I do a lot of stuff for free though. That's not a Marxist thing. That's just I just believe in helping people, right? Like, you know, it's just. I think that we should cooperate voluntarily when we feel like it's the right thing or the person we want to help. Like, this is what drives me more insane about this than anything. Because I spend actually a lot of time helping people for free, they hate me.
The people you're helping?
No.
Or
The Marxists or the socialists, they hate me. They hate that idea because I don't want to pay the government to do it. I don't want to pay the collective to do it.
Because they hate philanthropy.
Yes, they hate it because it's not part of the collective vision. So, like, if I go help a homeless person, but I don't want to fund some program that I think is a pile, wasteful, dumb program that's actually maybe going to cause more harm than good, I'm evil. Even though I'm literally spending my own time and energy and effort to help someone.
Because it's your own time.
It's my own, right? Because it's not part of...
And you chose to do this.
Right.
I've heard Christians make that argument. That's the government's job. They're the ones to take care
of again, like
widows.
Oh my goodness.
So there's another one,
the church
right?
isn't doing a good enough job. It's the government's job.
The church handed that over.
We did.
However long ago. And there's a tension there because, like, Jesus said the poor's always going to be here.
Right.
So what does that mean? Are we ever going to solve all poverty?
But then he says true religion is taking care of the widows and the orphans.
Yes. I'm saying, there's always going to be there's always going to be problems.
Always that need.
Okay. So, but yes, what should we do with orphans and widows? And, you know, we should take care of them. We should, okay. So there's a tension there, right? Where, okay, like, let's just look at the homeless situation downtown. Can you, is there not pretty much as many different types of help available right now as a person would need down there? Oh yeah. There's programs, there's places to sleep, there's food, all of it. Volunteer programs, it's all there.
Yeah.
Okay. So why does a person still go out and live in a tent or whatever?
At some level, you want to do that.
Well, usually it's drugs or alcohol, right? There's an addiction.
Yeah.
Which precludes you from a lot of the programs.
Which takes you out of the programs because they can't have people shooting up and and going crazy. It would just be insane. You can't do it, right? So there's just because there's like some rules around this, right? You can't bring the drugs in here or something like that. Okay, well, I'll just go live in a tent. Well, okay, now let me ask you guys this question. What should you do with that person? Should you force them? Should you go capture them and put them in an institution and force them to detox? Or what do you do?
For the greater good.
For the greater good?
We used to have
We used to do that.
Back in the
You're
60s.
violating a person's autonomy.
Right.
They want to do that. So, like, this is where that's never going to go away, you know? But as much as we would try, as much as society tries, as much as you would have AA programs and, like, all this stuff, there's still that going on at some level. And you can't solve it all. They want to solve it all. They want to fix it forever. Like, it'll never happen again. Sorry, go ahead.
So you're saying we can't take away the homeless person's private property to fix their problems?
Right. Yeah.
That won't solve it for them?
Yeah. So, but that's the mentality, is like, you know, there's all this help available. There's all these people that'll do everything to help, to get people back on their feet and all this stuff. And I'm not saying those couldn't get better ever. They can.
Yeah.
There's always improvements to make. But this idea that you can fully eliminate it becomes totalitarian. You destroy people's autonomy, and you have to do bad things. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, because people are going to choose to do stuff like that, but you know, the only solution they're coming up with right now is like a safe injection site, or something like that.
And they've done
right.
that.
Like, okay, what is that? What happens? Well, more people come in. and more people like start living like that, and like it just perpetuates it, and it grows and grows. Look at San Francisco and all these places. So it's just like that lifestyle just keeps building and growing like crazy.
Based on results, that's not working.
It's not working. It perpetuates it. The overall, yeah, you might save some people from ending up overdose. Okay, but you're creating this perpetuation of that lifestyle.
But then it's like, save them into what? Into this other lifestyle that we just spent an hour criticizing of, you know, having white picket fence and being up to dead in your eyeballs and sending your kids to school and all the stuff that
You're okay.
all the other normies hate. I mean,
That stuff is not required. All those bad things that you're talking about, is that
but I mean, that's what like the normie person is like. We need to get people off the streets so that they can come into the other type of slavery that I'm in, that I like. I mean, those are the two. So the one guy's like, I'm free to freaking piss in the park, and he's like, I want to free you from that. I want to
There's
free
a
you
certain
to
level of freedom there.
free you to not piss in the park, but to be in debt to the bank and to be in despair because your kids are turning out to be this
And for a lot of people, that's why they became homeless, is because they got disillusioned with that.
yeah, disillusioned with like this system that maybe we can't grasp it, but we're like, there's something wrong here. I want to go out and live in a van, and living in a van and touring the country turns into something else.
yeah.
So we're not offering like the sexiest alternative anyway.
In general, I would say no. Like,
As a solution.
yeah. The solution. I mean, if you're just not going to solve all the problems in the world, that's the real like.
Well, also,
Like, there. Go ahead. Sorry.
as Christians, like, we understand two different kinds of evils. There's like man's inhumanity to man, right? Like man-made evil. There's also like a natural evil. Like, this is a fallen world. There are hurricanes, all volcanoes, all kinds of things that cause pain to people, right?
Yeah.
Cancer, everything. And so like
Hailstorms that destroy entire fields of solar panels.
oh, you're gonna make me cry.
Or even like benign, like
Sorry.
less epic stuff, like one of these trees
just
falls and
falls
breaks
on
our
it.
leg.
Yeah.
Right. So like, what would the Marxist answer to natural evil be? Like, we can't control hurricanes, or can.
I don't think that that's really thought of. Well, I guess they do believe that we can control the weather. Like, we can change the climate completely. We can control it. Okay, we can.
Well, like once
stop
we master
global
ourselves,
warming.
then we can master the environment. or something like
They
that.
believe
Okay.
that once they can logically plan the economy, then they can change how it runs, so they can stop global warming. Which everybody that is obsessed with, you know, the climate change.
Yeah,
stuff
where does the
has
Greens movement intersect with this stuff? I mean,
intersect?
yeah.
Yes, like almost all of them are about the climate change thing, like big time. So
And what's the why? Like who? Like,
there's a mixture. Like, some of it's like, yeah, we have pollution, and like it's not cool.
yeah,
Like, and it a lot of it started, by the way, like Robert Kennedy Jr. like people were polluting the rivers, and he was actually helping out fishermen who were conservative, by the way, like small fishing out, you know, and like other people like that, and he was like suing these big companies that were polluting the rivers.
mercury going into the rivers.
Yeah, like
from the
there's-
logging
And
industry.
they
And they probably just connected back to like, look, corporate America, another symptom.
Well,
of,
that's what everything is capitalism.
Yeah, I
There's
guess
no
it's
pollution.
It's an easy.
There was no pollution in the USSR. There's no pollution in China. There's no pollution. Okay, there's no pollution in a socialist place where we have technology. And well, how do you make technology? A factory, and like there's
so-
no pollution though. Like, okay,
How do they produce the technology that we enjoy? Like, do they have a
how do they do it?
well in their model?
Their model is
They love cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
Where do the cell phones come from? When you
factories,
don't factories, okay? How
industry.
How does the industry? How does it? How do we do that?
They just believe they'll be able to do it better if it's not
Like there has to be a way to make a cell phone without damaging the environment.
Like, what if you say,
I just
hey,
don't
we
even
need,
think that
we
comes
need
into
100.
it. It's just a blank.
It takes
slot.
100 guys to build the next set of cell phones. 99 are volunteering happily. Could you come do it? And I said, I just don't feel like it. Like, how do I do it?
But they hope
don't
that
eat.
you will
Huh?
feel like
You
it
I don't eat.
You don't get fed at the commune if you don't show up.
because you're a napper.
Well, no. I mean, that makes sense.
And if you go to the like USSR and China and stuff, like what they did is
And,
like
and what if I say, well, that's cool. Like, your stuff tastes weird anyway. You know,
There's nowhere else to go.
I found this cow in the field. I'm gonna go kill it and whatever. No,
it's
don't
not
do
your
that,
cow.
Dom. It's not your cow.
It's everybody's cow. You don't just get to get it for
You
yourself.
can have some. I can eat it all.
But you're running into the problem. What happens when that starts happening on a mass scale is when they find out that it doesn't work, because everybody starts doing that, and then they have to throw them in internment camps or something.
And they have to say, you know, you're dead.
Bring back those 5
whatever.
people in
I'm just
charge and be like, hey,
saying, like, when people don't comply with the collective and they don't go with the majority.
So eventually that's where it turns
then-
violent, because it's like, I don't like where this conversation is going. I'm frustrated. I'm a slave to my emotions anyway. That's how I got.
If you're
to this
not
kind
in the
of thing.
majority, you're toast.
Yes.
Period. The majority will rule you.
But certainly there's a smart guy sitting down with his pipe who loves this stuff and is trying to figure out that problem, because he doesn't like violence. He doesn't like oppression.
Again, that goes back to there won't be any need for it because human nature will change once we change the material conditions.
Yeah. So he can't imagine a world where I would love to come work in your factory.
no one will.
And
Right.
go for next time.
No one will do that.
Until that, but we have to install the dictatorship of the proletariat
through
for a
the
while,
10,
just for a
15
little
years.
while. It's just for a little while.
And
guys.
whoever survives that,
Right. It's not. It's just to get until
No.
everybody's
I
in
guess
line.
there's a line you can follow.
Right. Which is why every time, so they build up all these different groups of revolutionaries, right? Like because the workers aren't all uniting, we need all these different types of revolutions to eventually create solidarity. If you
Yeah.
hear that word, that's what that means, to bring all these movements into one giant collective uprising. But once you've done that, just like I was saying before with that, like that Native American nation that's like, okay, cool, I get my land back.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, no, you don't. You're part of the collective now too.
Because
So-
that nation doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't.
We've abolished
You don't
that.
have a nation. We
There's no
all are the
unit of a-
nation. We're the all together. Like,
Is there a demographic that you see as more prone to buying into this than others? Or,
young.
like, do white teens like it more than
I feel like
Asian 30-year-olds? I mean,
it's kind of popular in like Europe and like the UK a little bit, from what I have experienced. Like there's some people kind of
makes it,
adjacent.
so is it like Western countries, you know, white countries versus
So-
not country, or is it?
No, it's happened it's happened all over
obviously
South
it's happened
America.
it happened
Yeah, it's
everywhere.
happened in Asia.
Where there's certain
Like,
environments
honestly,
that certain
the main-
demographics are experiencing right now.
The
that
main
makes them more
environment
prone.
is the universities, intellectuals.
Okay, but
These are most of these people are actually more well-off kids of
Right.
capitalist children.
I guess that's what I'm asking.
They
So I
go
mean,
to
at the end of the
university
day,
and they have
it's like-
time to think.
Is it
consider-
affluent?
More.
I
A lot.
mean, I want to say Western, but maybe not. But like,
Yeah, if you're
those just happen to be the
you're in
most
sub-Saharan
well-off
Africa and
countries.
you're burning down. No, so but what? Again, that's another one of the contradictions. Is like it only happens generally in a poor country where the people just desire to not starve to death anymore, and they feel like this
Yeah,
is an answer.
I'm out of options.
and then
Let's just get a
yeah.
a
And so
torch
what
and
happens
fix
is
it.
they get a bigger government that comes in that becomes a giant bureaucracy that's corrupt, right? And then there's gangs and corruption and money going back and forth, and then the whole system.
That's
is
why a lot of
corrupted, and the
African
people
countries are very social.
tons of them.
Right.
And like
But the ideas come from
the ideas
the rich
come.
guys.
That's what I'm saying. The ideas come from the universities, but then it spreads out to like a poor country, and they're like, like, okay.
Because that's the fertile ground for the idea.
Well, that's the only place that people will accept it. Why would you revolt if you're living in a country where you're actually doing okay?
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? It never. That's why it always had, and that's why the whole plan didn't work. That's why the prophecy, his prediction never worked, because the capitalist people were actually kind of just happy, like being okay.
Kind of working.
Yeah, like I'm okay. I have my house, and like.
So then the fact that,
Thank God for America, dude.
but so the fact that it, you know, it's like the rich, educated white countries like this, do they envision themselves as like being on top of this schema? And I get you're saying that there is no top.
Yeah, they don't envision a top. The socialists.
But like, what's the buy-in from the kid at the university? Like, what's
They're
attractive?
coming of age and they need something to believe.
It's a moral thing for them. Like this, just
all their friends. It's a lot of
Just a
pressure,
peer
a
thing.
lot of peer pressure.
Also, it's like rebellion against your parents.
There's a lot of that.
I'm gonna do
That's why you have to get to the kids. That's why Mao went to the kids. He created his Red Guard with the kids. That's why you have to have the control of the school system. You know, like young people are idealists more, anyways.
Yeah.
Right? They haven't
been pushed around.
They
by
haven't seen
life.
enough to go like, you know,
They haven't done
we're
the
not going to
work.
fix everything. Let's just like agree to disagree on a lot of stuff and try to like just do our own thing. And like, so young people think that, yeah, like all this stuff will get fixed. We'll end oppression. We'll liberate everybody.
My parents never told me about this.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a lot of it. And there's just general desire. Do you want bad things to keep happening? I don't. Right? Like, to make the world a better place, like,
So it's just that natural.
that's a general, yeah, like we all don't like oppression or bad things or slavery or any kind of abuse. Like, we don't like that. We don't like that evil happens. But we're also not saying we're obsessed with figuring out how to completely stamp it all out. Like, that's possible. Like, we just want to make the best that we can, given the circumstances. You know, like, separate the powers as much as you can. Keep powers separated. Do not centralize power, whatever you do. That's a bad idea. Like, because somebody's going to take a hold of that, you know? And
So just the kind of naivete of like thinking like, yeah, but if I have the power, then
that's a lot of it.
yeah.
Like
it's the wrong guys. in
This
charge.
one person's like, I'm all about decentralizing power. You know, we're going to democratize everything. They keep saying that. And it's like, and then later on it was like, but man, sometimes there's going to be this like really creative central planning thing that we're going to do. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, oh, so if you're in control, then it's going to be good, central planning, right? That's what that means. You want the ring of power for yourself, right? Boromir?
Yeah, I mean, so
whatever.
the Lord of the Rings is a great.
Dude, it's so great.
Is great
so-
on that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the Achilles heel to their whole thing, right? Is that they want to reach this point where no one will feel like that. But in order to get there, you need people who are going to end up feeling like that. And then you have the Stalins and the Maos and everyone else. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
So, well, you have to destabilize everything. Like, again, it's because it's
So much chaos.
it's because it's prophetic. It's because you're trying to achieve this vision, right? You will say, it's not happening because of these things. These things must be bad. Therefore, they must be dismantled so that we can get to the thing that I want to happen.
It's a big presupposition.
It's all about a presupposition. So this is a presuppositional. Yes, that is it. All of what it is.
But
so
what they continue to fail to realize is like you de-incentivize. There's no incentive structure anymore. Like in China, there's no incentive structure, and so production was like all-time low. So then they're like, let's create quasi-personal property. You're gonna work the Communist Party land, but you're gonna actually keep some of your production. Production skyrocketed in China. This was 20 years ago, 40 years ago. Like, oh, so capitalism does work.
Well,
If there's an incentive
Do
to
you see that as a failing? Like incentive themselves are evil.
so
Like your
this is-
desire for an incentive is a failing in your character, your soul, right?
But they get
this,
desperate.
you're just this is like the next like China's like they were a poor country. So Marx literally said that it wouldn't happen in poor countries first, it would happen in capitalist countries. Okay? So capitalism had to happen first to get the country to that point where it had the means. Okay? And then the workers would rise up eventually and revolt, and then it would turn to socialism naturally, and then turn to. So, but China was a poor country that did this, and they didn't. I mean, obviously they didn't work. It just destroyed people. But so when they did open it up a little bit to incentive, they saw like this crazy boom. Well, I mean, some people would say like, okay, well, it just wasn't there yet. We need to get it. We need to get it a little further, then we can go back or whatever.
Well,
Then it'll work.
they had to go through the boom first.
Yeah.
They couldn't skip that step.
Right. But then, like, again, now we're getting into the whole, like, WEF type of mentality. China's part of that.
Yeah.
Like, the World Economic Forum is, like, to me, it's like combining it all into one Hydra monster, like 7 heads of the totalitarianism. Like, it's all of it.
Revelation level
Yeah, it's
stuff.
it's all of it. They're Malthusian, like they want to control the population, and they use socialist principles or propaganda, collectivism type of ideas, but they want all the money for themselves, you know, and they want to run everything.
Right.
They are God.
Yeah.
I am the science. Fauci.
So crazy.
So, but, and like I say, like, China's a part of that. So you know that some of their tactics and all that, like, is getting mingled into this whole thing. And I don't think, I think, like, China and a lot of those people just realize, like, that this basic form of socialism would never work. They have to just, these overlords have to do it for everybody. And, like, that's really what it looks like to me. And so they'll allow a little bit of stuff for now, or, you know, whatever, but
The means to an end.
yeah.
I'd love to do a deep dive on like the history of China from like 20th century to now, because like I know that China is like scary, but I
need to
don't
have
necessarily
Gene
know
back
why.
Right.
But it's like there still seems to be some remnants of that revolution kind of in their culture, you know, and it's a little intimidating.
Right. It's like, well, why do they have to squash revolutions that are happening now? Like, aren't you all about revolution? Like, the people rising up? Like, no. Because we've already done it. We can't have any more
They're
revolutions.
still in their dictator phase.
My revolution.
Mao was like, he helped the revolution happen and he got everybody to this certain place. It's, oh my gosh. Got him to this certain place, and then he's like, now we're gonna like, that's when he took all their food and started giving it to Russia, and he started trying to like industrialize the country really, really fast. And then it didn't work, and millions of people starved to death. And then people started going like, getting mad, and you could tell like they were gonna revolt basically again and take him out. And so he just said, it was those guys over there. And then he created this revolution to go attack some of these other people, right? He was like, capitalism is still staying around through some of these bourgeois, blah, blah. He like blamed certain groups, and some of it was like his like second in command and like guys that helped him forever, and like
That's how that goes.
one of them like had disagreed with him about something, and like he turned them all on him and got him killed.
Yeah.
So it's like, when it doesn't work, we need another revolution.
Yeah.
When I'm in power and I can keep people shut up enough, then I'm shutting down the revolution and not letting them revolt at all. Power and control.
Yeah.
So
You got to drug them all up with the opium and all the other stuff to keep them complacent. I mean, some people have said that about the U.S. with sports. It's like, oh, just give them NFL and basketball and all the things so that's what they're spending all their time watching and looking at and doing their things. And
Yeah, that goes back to like Rome.
The bread and circus thing.
The bread and circus,
Yeah.
That's like the Rome thing,
Yeah.
the Colosseum. If I can keep the people placated.
or Fahrenheit 451, where they would sit in their little virtual reality booths. Remember that from the book?
Well, in Fahrenheit, they had like rooms dedicated to TVs, where it
Yeah.
was like his wife wanted to have like the third TV on the third wall,
Yeah.
so that she could go in there and like have her own little VR soap opera. Yeah,
Keep them all just kind of plugged in and
happy
appeased and
the metaverse.
yeah.
But we kind of veered away from it again, but I kept thinking of, I had to bring up the dispensational idea versus the preterist thing. Well, made me think of, so we're like, as at least on the Christian end, we're so invested in the like, well, stuff's gonna go bad anyway. There's no one building a cathedral that's gonna take 300 years to build, because like, why would I do that? Everything's gonna go bad anyway, and God's just gonna bail us out at the last minute. So on like the other side of the coin, we're kind of we sit around and complain and not do anything because there's nothing to do. Like, this is all prophesied, this is gonna happen, stuff's gonna get really bad.
Christ will come tomorrow.
So there's nothing you can do about it. The Antichrist is gonna come. Instead of our ancestors are like, no, we're gonna build a glorious Christian culture and stamp Christ's name on it.
You know, all of our churches look like brutalist.
All of us were like,
architecture.
that's never gonna happen. This all makes sense. It was all prophesied anyway. So we're just kind of like, yeah, come and take it, because that's what's supposed to happen.
Once upon a time, like the Catholics had like the best art of like the entire culture. Like, it was just the best stuff. And like even
And
still,
founded the hospitals and colleges.
Yeah.
Well, because so
Like-
I guess what I mean is like we
Science,
science, yes.
we had a take over the world mentality too.
Yeah.
And now we stopped that, and everyone else still does. Like, all the evil guys still have a take over the world mentality, and we just don't, because we think, oh, they're supposed to take over the world, and we're supposed to get smaller and smaller until the
There's
rapture.
a recent theological shift in Christianity that's kind of led to that.
So it's like, it's made it just too easy.
I think the Industrial Revolution is a big part of that too. Everyone's complacent now. We're all just twiddling our thumbs behind our white picket fences because we have our little utopias. So why should we strive for more?
Yeah.
You know?
So, like, now we're going into where, as Christians, you know, where our culture's at, and we're basically like, I don't know, in Babylon, or I don't know, some horrible place, like all this, you know, we're the exiles now, right? Like, we're being exiled. That's where we have to go. What did God place me here in this time for?
Yeah.
Hey, let's go back to Lord of the Rings. You don't get to choose what time, right?
That's a brilliant.
You know what I mean?
That's a
Like,
good one. Yeah.
you don't get to choose what time you have, but you get to choose what to do with it.
It was great hanging out in the shower, but
Yeah.
there's something
And-
else going on.
Right. So, you know, what purpose are you going to serve right now in this moment, dealing with what we're dealing with? Obviously, the good answer is not to, well, let's just let bad things happen. Let's just not care. Or like complacency or whatever. Like,
That's like the Christian
I give
thing
you,
right
yeah,
now, right?
There's both, right? There's the flip side of that is we need to control everything. We need to take back the country for ourselves and like
Yeah.
blah, blah, dominate or something. And like, that's not biblical. Jesus didn't come to set up an earthly kingdom. Like, and you know what? It worked out real bad the last time that happened. So
And we're already getting pigeonholed as Christian nationalists now.
right. So like what we have to do is focus on what did God give you as a talent and a gift and a place to do, and focus on raising your kids, focus on, you know, your church, doing things in the community that you are led to, like pregnancy center, or I don't know, whatever, you know, focus on that. And you're fighting the good fight while you're here that's what God gave you to do. That's the job.
So you presented all this at your church at some point. How did that go?
Good. About like this, we got on 17 rabbit trails and like
You kind of did it as like a Q&A style anyway, right?
yeah, just similar. Like we just talked through it, and I had a presentation, so you know.
I wonder what that would look like if you came and presented like the Republicans' monthly luncheon, or Republican women's group is really getting some steam right now. Obviously, it couldn't be a 3-hour conversation.
Yeah, I'm preparing like a actual presentation where it's not a conversation or whatever.
45 minutes, an hour kind of thing.
Yeah, like an hour with Q&A.
Yep, that'd be good.
And
Well, this has been very like enlightening, because I feel like in my head I thought like there has to be like some infighting at some point with these contradictions. But what you're explaining, it almost sounds like issues that like Democrats and these like, you know, extreme socialists kind of glom onto for different reasons. It's like Democrats will cling on to LGBT and Black Lives Matter for political benefit.
Social.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas like the other ones are doing it to see a means to their ends.
yes.
And they're not like the same ends that both parties have. So that's why
And all the poor minorities at the end of the day, no one cares about them.
They're all
They're
being
just
used.
useful.
For
No,
real.
no one cares about them.
Even climate change, it's just a useful tool.
Yeah, no
Yes.
one cares about the earth.
Well,
Or Earth.
you just brought me back to something I was gonna say earlier. Okay. Then we have to go back to that. Okay. Sorry.
No, you're good.
As Christians, why hasn't stewardship of the earth been something that we've thought was as more important?
We should be the ones. We are the only ones
Okay.
that really
right? Like
should care about
Who
it.
wants to conserve conservatives?
right?
I think it's because
Right.
we probably used to.
We used to.
And when these other factions saw it as a useful thing to use, against us, our reaction was like, "Oh, you care about the Earth? Well, I think they're stupid." So there.
You guys familiar with
isn't that?
Greg Walcher? He writes an op-ed in the paper every couple of weeks. He's a conservative. He's an LPR grad, but he's all about conservation through conservative principles.
yes. So
Really well written stuff.
Right.
Most people don't pay attention.
we
to
should
it.
be the best at taking care of things and being responsible as you could imagine.
Yep.
Because this is God's creation and we should protect it.
Completely agree.
Like, that doesn't mean we're not
Even if it's
anti.
temporary.
Right. We're not anti-human. We don't want to like eliminate the humans from nature and say like we're part of
poison each
it.
other.
Yeah, like we're not like that, but we should be like, if we cut a bunch of trees down, let's plant some more so that we keep the forest going and that like blah blah blah.
But isn't
whatever.
it because
like,
we're not for anything anymore? Because this all is going to burn anyway. So who cares about building anything?
definitely some
And
like
then
that.
they've
I hear
jumped.
Christians say that.
They've jumped onto the Earth thing for their own means, and now we say, well, the bad guys like the Earth,
So that's-
so we're gonna put a middle finger up
we
to them. Whatever
become-
they like,
yep.
we don't like.
Yep, we become. It's called reaction.
Oh, the bad guys are pretending to help the poor. Well, screw the poor.
Right. But it's called being a reactionary.
Yeah.
So
we're getting like faked out of.
you're
the things
getting
we actually care
played
about.
by their game.
Yes.
So instead of being like, no, this is who I am. I don't care what madness is going on around me. I don't care what these different movements are doing. I'm doing God's work, whatever that is. You're like, we become this reactionary and go, oh, well, those people are for that. That must be bad, or I must be against it, and it's like, no, they're doing it a different way. They have a different reason. Essentially, they're worshiping the creation and not the creator, right? But that doesn't mean we shouldn't care about something like poisoning our
That God made and
water
said was
sources
good.
or something. Yeah, like so. Part of it is being reactionary. Part of it, I think, is I don't know if you've studied social Darwinism, like survival of the fittest, that kind of idea. But there's just this like weird shift that happened when social Darwinism came into the culture that affected everybody about like just how they like, well, that was supposed to like just let them die or whatever, like versus Christian perspective that's like take care of the orphans and widows, okay, which not in a socialist way, not in a big government way, but like just taking care of people and that are actual victims or actually have like whatever went wrong that they need help or something. So there's like a lot of weird things that gets a Christian off track if they aren't just focused on scripture, doing God's will, knowing your role, like, and like all these things just take us wherever. Okay, sorry, what did you just bring up? We were getting back to
I don't remember. What were we saying? Rewind. Anyone remember?
Oh no. Move past Lord of the Rings.
I lost it.
I got up to P.
But I think Christians struggle because, you know, I'm pretty pragmatic. You know, I'm not going to hand a guy in the corner a $10 bill. So I'm like, I don't know what your actual needs are. I don't know if I'm going to spend it on beer. I don't know. But, you know, that's my treasure. I just don't feel I can probably give that to you. But, like, the Joseph Center, Mona Highland, she's running some really cool programs where she has the Golden Girls program. Well, these are older women that Pop died. She can't get the finances in order, and all of a sudden she's like homeless or about to be. Mona will take him in. She'll give him a place to. She has like 6 beds for him, not a lot. All right, and then she's actually got a situation with the state where she can then intercede on their behalf for their Medicare benefits and Social Security benefits. Get that like set up and get grandma back on her feet into some transitional housing, and then they're back doing their thing. So she literally keeps, you know, grandmas off the street.
Yeah.
I'll donate to that all day long.
So this is something.
But am I going to go create that structure and infrastructure? No, she's already done it. So I don't feel like I need to go build that shelter.
Yeah.
But I'll donate to that cause.
Sure.
Yes.
There are tons of things already in place that just need support, and there's some things that you might have to build if it's not there.
Or maybe go volunteer on a weekend if they're going to do something.
The two currencies we have are time and money.
Right.
We don't have the time to build the shelter, but we might be able to help with money.
This is why I
Sometimes you don't
do
have the
stuff
money,
for free for people, because I don't have
But you have a set of skills and you can help.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing you brought up, I think that this is really important: discernment. Like you said, okay, somebody walks up to you and says, "Go ahead, $5." This happened to me. I was at the college. This guy walked up to me. He's like, "I'm starving. I need something. Can you get me $5?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't have any money." "Oh, I have a protein bar in my car. Like, let me go hook you up." "Oh no, I'm good." He walked off, and I'm like,
Okay.
so ever since that point, like if somebody says they're starving to me, I'll take them and buy them a hamburger, right, or whatever. Yeah. Like, and I'll sit there with them and hang out. And I've only had 2 people ever take me up on it. Every other time they'd be like, "Ah," and I'm like left because they wanted money for something else. So discernment. That's discernment. Like knowing when. Like gathering enough information to know when you're supposed to do the right thing. You know, so does that mean you never help anybody? No. So what's the reactionary bad thing is to say, well, this one guy didn't take my protein bar, so I don't ever help a homeless person, period.
It's so easy to do that.
Okay?
I have this one story.
Yeah, and like that's
They're
where
all
it's
the same.
Yeah, discernment is like there's so many things going on, and like I don't know what to do in this moment, but now I gotta figure it out, and everything's different. Like, so
That's part of the fun of life to me, though.
Yes.
Like interacting with people and having nuance and conversations, you know? A lot of people avoid that.
Yes.
That's what the socialist guys are doing that you're going back to. They don't want to bother to discern how to help this guy. We're just going to
Well, they want to solve
one
it
size
all.
fits all.
They
And
want
I
to
don't
fix
even want to have to really be involved in it. I'm going to hire the state to go figure that out because I'm just too lazy or...
That's
Don't
the
wanna
current
think about it.
version. That's the way it plays out. In their mind, they're like,
Yeah, but the guy that
Dream
not
version
giving
of
the
it.
$5 in his mind, he's saving someone from a life of alcoholism because I didn't give him the $5. It's like, no, you're just too lazy to take 30 seconds to think. Like, does he need the $5 or doesn't he?
right.
And also, they have all the time in the world. So to be like, hey, you want to go get a burger? It's like, they shouldn't be like, oh my God, I got somewhere to be.
Yeah.
Later.
Where you gotta be?
It's like, hey, if I can carve out, 30 minutes, you can carve out 30 minutes. And if they say no, then you understand why they said no.
Right.
As simple as that.
Yeah. So that's where like we can't let the world tell us what's right and wrong,
Yes.
and we can't react and go like this weird direction because of all these movements that happen. We have to know scripture. Like
we're-
we have to know God.
We're
Sorry.
the ambassadors of morality, through Christ, right?
Yeah, so then this is what happens. They go, that guy doesn't care about you at all over there. He's a jerk. And then you walk out, but I care, right? And then they walk over and you go like, get out of here, right? See, I told you. Now they own them. And that's how it works. They create the reactionary doesn't know how to react, they play the game, and they get control. They take power. Which is a pattern as old as time. That's not just a political thing. That is just how to manipulate humans.
Right.
Like, it's, so.
Where in your studies have you seen this play? Granted, the tech's different, the global manner of it is different. Where have you seen this play out in your studies throughout history?
What do you mean this?
Well, this socialist pattern,
Because it started in the
and like
1800s.
farther back,
That's
I mean,
right.
pre-Marx, because this happens, right? I mean, this is a human type.
I mean,
thing.
it all happens at smaller levels, right? Like, a king decides to be a tyrant, and he takes control, but he's doing it because he's the one that's going to, you know what I mean? Like, he's the chosen king that's gonna.
Yeah.
with promises of wealth. And
Yeah, he's
all that.
gonna prosper his whole nation, but then all of a sudden he's tyrannical and he has to kill this group off and he has to oppress these people and these people aren't doing what he wants, and then he takes the stuff for himself, and it's that same
Basically,
path. Like,
every organization, every company, every church ever has at least fought off those temptations or succumbed to them.
yes, we're just talking about human
nature.
and sin, and like this is the way it works. Like,
Is socialism like the first attempt at this to make it like a more global effort, where it's like the whole world
No.
becomes one?
no, how many people tried to conquer the world? Back like
Every
the Roman Empire and like, you know what I mean? Like,
Way before
it's
that.
But well, it's like
it's their own version of
Nimrod.
Nimrod,
like,
Genghis Khan. Like,
right, but like the whole thing about socialism is you want people on your side to help with the revolution for a certain utopic vision, right? Mm-hmm. And like I don't know if Genghis Khan was touting a utopic view of the future so much as wanting to be in power. You know what I mean?
tyrants always tell the people that it'll be amazing when we get there.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
So what's the difference with socialism then? Like what was the change?
The
compared to
change
previous
was
tyrants?
full collectivism. Because before it was, this one person's going to be our king that's going to lead us to greatness or prosperity or whatever, right?
But this is like
Just because
This
the
is
king
no
is part of
king.
the Overton window at the moment.
Exactly.
So it's like
it's the collective
That's
that's going to
not
do
good.
it together, and it mixed in with Darwin theory, theory of evolution, and materialism, right, and all that. But it is the age-old same pattern of humans to try to create heaven on earth in some way, one way or the other, or to play God. Like,
Which is why I say it's not this like, and therefore proof of the end of the world, just like a proof of we need to keep going because our ancestors have quote unquote fought this off before, and now it's it's the next round, and we do it.
Exactly.
Through Christ, not through.
Christians and conservatives could really like figure it out, get out ahead of it. That's impossible, but create a better alternative. And a lot of it's just education and messaging and a narrative, which the left has done a phenomenal job of. But yeah, we were talking before you guys showed up about what do you do with systems that are already in place, like the library. Publicly funded library with drag queen story hours and all this stuff. It's like we just want just show up there and just yell at them and all this stuff. It's like
Be like a reactionary.
We're just reactionary. But
do we do the parallel? You're saying like
do we want
economy?
to? Do we want to infiltrate and try to get people on the library board?
Yeah.
But what? And if we do, let's fire the executive director. Who are we going to replace her with? Another bureaucrat. Right? Same thing with city council. It's like, all right, say if we get on city council, we fire Greg Caton. He's leaving. Who are we going to replace him with? Another bureaucrat that wants to be a central planner. So, can you actually change those systems and structures, or do you try to maybe use them and do, instead of drag queen story hour, do constitutional story?
So we're asking the same questions they asked themselves when they decided how they wanted to go about taking over the world.
Because trying to create like alternatives, man, it's a heavy lift. And for them, it's a religion. For us, it's like, do I have time for that?
Yeah.
And the easiest thing to do, which we've touched on before, is like educating our own kids.
Yes.
Which it's almost something that seems too easy. It's like, it's like I know all this stuff.
Well, it's like too small. There's no like Avengers,
right?
Thing
But
to
like
save the galaxy or whatever.
But to like to have a quiver full of kids, and you're like, I'm gonna teach you all this stuff one-on-one, so you know it. And this isn't going to be something that's going to be easily wrenched from you if you happen to go to medical school or something.
Right.
To be able to get your gen eds before medical school, and like, wait, hold on, all this other stuff, and it's like, no, my dad or my mom told me otherwise, and I understand this. Like, Christian parents nowadays, they take that for granted so much. So that's like step one. But then the next part of it is something that I lost because I forgot exactly what you said. And we're also deep into the podcast, so it happens.
You said something. Something like, my parents told me this or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, we have to teach our kids how to think.
Yes.
Like, not just parrot what we said, or I'm not saying you were just claiming that, but like, that is a problem. It's like, well, I told you that, but you never told me why. You never really showed me why.
It gave me the tools to replicate it again.
Yeah.
in my own
So like
mind
when I came up against this other idea, I'm like, well, that sounds cool. Let's try that. Like,
My eldest is turning 8 in August, and every time that I like explain like biblical concepts to her and like why the Bible is true compared to other things and all that, she wouldn't, I say push back, but she'll have questions that are like very logical, and I'll explain it to her.
Yeah,
like
that's great.
Like she has inquiries, and I'm able to like okay, this is why. And so like I can sense a sense of trust with her, as far as like Dad knows what he's talking about, and like we're dropping the ball culturally as far as like parents.
You've got a window.
Teaching their kids,
You've got
and
a
like,
window there.
and not only because we see this thing of kids rebelling in college, and like what is it, 3 out of 4, like 75% of Christian kids who go to a secular college will apostatize and leave the faith, which is like a devastating number. That's incredible. incredibly high, it should not be that high. And that means that like the parents are not instilling a nuanced, deep, historically based, substantive, you know the word, worldview in their kids. And so they go off to college and they're just like, what? And then they, they become socialist, trans,
Whatever.
all everything.
Yeah. But so, okay. Here's another parallel. Our culture handed education over to the school system, right? But even like within the church, we handed biblical training over to Bible school.
Yes.
Sunday school.
Sunday school.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not demonizing schools or Sunday school at all.
They're not all made equal.
I'm simply saying that the parents, like, it's their job to teach their kids scripture. To teach their kids, like,
Amen.
That's your job.
So I say it's subcontractors all the way down.
They're all subcontractors. No, like, that's the role. Like, for whatever reason, we just kept giving our role away over and over to something else, even within the church. And so churches became little industrial, like, factory type, like the way that they operate. It became like that.
Make little videos and printouts.
We're supposed to make disciples. Okay. Do you guys know what happened, like, before the Reformation? People couldn't even get to read the scriptures themselves. A lot of people didn't know how to read, but you didn't even get to.
Wasn't New King James after the Reformation? Like
1611?
1611?
Yeah, but I'm saying before that, people didn't, like, the priests were the only ones that really knew
They
scripture.
told you, like, this is what God says,
right?
Right.
You can
Okay.
trust me.
Yeah, I'll read this passage to you.
Yeah, and so, like,
Also, it's written in a language you don't even read anyway, so.
yep. So if you just take like that, the laity or the people don't know scripture for themselves. They're just supposed to rely on the priesthood to tell them everything, right? And then you add in like this industrialization of everything and the school model, and then you've got people that show up to church on Sunday, they sit through a sermon, they send their kids off to the place, and then they go home, and then that's that.
Yeah.
And they go to church on Sunday.
The game's on.
Go to church on Sunday, and like I got dressed up and I like was nice to my wife while we were there, and then like on the way home I like freaked out because or what, you know what I mean, whatever.
I
Like
invited two people on the way.
I did the thing, and I went to church, and now okay, we did our duty for the week, and the Bible school taught my kids that, and like we handed off all of our responsibility again. Instead of like, this is how you live. You are the church. You make disciples. This is your life. Like,
So
everywhere.
So we're doing Holy Week this week with our kids, which is something we haven't done before. But they're kind of, our oldest two are old enough to kind of like get it, so we're starting to do it now. But like every day we're like reading them the scripture of like Jesus' last week before he died, and it's been like fantastic. Just like sitting down and like reading the Bible with the kids, like slowly. When they have questions, you respond. You know, you just integrate it into the way they understand things, and it's like, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's like people are, not only are people lazy and deferring it down to the subcontractors like you said, but it's like they're missing out on such a fulfilling part of their life.
Right. And then you're like depressed because that's all you do is you go to work,
Right.
just so you can bring home some food and pay for the bills and watch some TV and then get up and do it again.
Yeah.
Instead of like
In your house decorated by your wife.
like God gave me
House decorated by your wife. I hate beige, but I just gotta. Dang it!
White, brown, and green everywhere.
What's wrong with her?
wow.
It's true. My wife agrees, so I'm not sexist.
That's good.
Instead of saying like God gave me a family and this is my job to like raise this family, protect this family, to treat my wife with respect, to love her as Jesus loved the church, right? To raise my children in the way that they should go, to teach them in season and out of season as we go, and to make disciples, like, and then, you know, also to be a part of a church community that's the body of Christ, and to serve there wherever I am. Like, you're a nose, you're a eye, you're a ear, or whatever. Like, that's what our focus should be, instead of like, well, I gotta go to work, gotta get to the game.
It's so easy to fall into that too.
Maybe it's, especially like as men or something, socialists I'm sure not like this, but you have to like realize your own agency again. But like, this is my life, my house. Sorry, guys. My house.
You have dominion over
My
it, right?
wife, who's also another human, but in some sense, I have the responsibility. She's an add-on to me, not the other way around. My kids.
You ever seen the umbrella meme?
No, well, not in this context.
So God is like the big umbrella over,
Oh yeah,
right?
and the guy, sure.
So just because you brought that up, I know where you're going. Like, keep going, and I'll come back to this. Sorry,
I probably lost the momentum, but just right, like if you saw, because this is almost heretical too, in the sense it's almost too individualistic for Christianity, but this is like me, and everything I'm doing is like an emanation of like what I'm doing, instead of I'm just being pushed along by, you know, I need food, so I'm pushed along by my job, and then I'm pushed around by my wife, and then pushed around by my kid's schedule, or like you said, I'm a free agent, so I'm choosing to be here today and spending time with you guys. And for the moment, my wife's kind of holding it down as like the manager, but I'm still the CEO of my life and my family. Instead of like, oh, I hate beige, but I sub that out completely to her. I have no, you know, say in it all, because I just sleep here, because most of the time I'm just working.
And if you're aware of that, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't own that place either, because some other dude does, but I have no input on what he says, and I have no input on what my kids are even learning. You're just like, I'm just floating around, instead of really being like taking ownership of, God gave me a wife, and we're doing this together, but I'm the CEO and she's the manager type of a thing, instead of a whatever it is we do now.
So, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, God gave you a wife. He's really the CEO if we do it right, biblically.
My preface was like, wait, watch for the heresy. But
Yeah, no, that's right. I was trying to get. So, if you set up
The earthly CEO.
right, if you
You're
let's just say that
you're
you
the
took
head
God.
manager.
Let's say you took God completely out of this situation,
Dwight
right?
Schrute.
There's no God to you, and you're the head of your household. Well, you're gonna rule it like a sinful man. You might be abusive, oppressive, blah, 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 like all the things that everybody is so mad about, right? The patriarchy. But if you put God at the head of your house, and then he said the man will be the head of the house, but he's supposed to love his wife as Jesus loved the church. What did Jesus do for the church? He died for the church. He went to the cross for the church. He washed their feet. Like, he fed them, like all these things.
He did everything.
Right?
Everything from dying for them to kicking their ass verbally,
Right.
when
So
they, and with a whip.
Right. And it naturally, when you look at biblically what we're talking about versus natural law, the natural way that humans organize is with a patriarchy or with a man on the top or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, just forget the man thing. It's
I'm
just with force.
Well, yeah, but I'm
And
just
who
saying,
has the
like,
most force? We do.
I'm just saying that men end up in leadership position through the natural flow of just how it works. Like, just how it works. So, but we believe, obviously, biblically, that God placed us there and gave us a family, and we're one flesh with our wife, right? You know, we're not going to be a dictator, dominating, or abusive. Does Christ abuse the church? Does Christ, you know what I mean? Is he tyrannical over the church? No, he loves the church. Anyway. So that's like how we have to like really get that really straight in our heads. Like Jesus is the head of our house, just like he's the head of the church. You can't have a man as the head of the church. Jesus is the head of the church.
Although I love Francis, but
Francis. Oh yeah. But you hear what I'm saying? Like Jesus is the head of the church. So then the church, like sin. Okay, let's say that let's say I'm in sin and I'm doing something that's bad, and my wife, should she follow me in the sin?
no.
Or should she obey God, who's above both of us, and call me out to repent of my sin? Because she obeys God, not me. Mm-hmm. I'm not the Lord of her life. Jesus is, right?
It's our job to be in sync with God as much as we can.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, if you are, then you will be a good leader. You'll be a good husband and a good father, and like, it all flows from put God first. You know, like it's just his pattern that just never ends, right? Like, so if you do that, put God first, and then you go, okay, he gave me a family, he gave me a spouse. How am I supposed to do this? You know, then you get convicted all the time when you're messing up, and then you'll be like, repent. I need to repent. I'm sorry. Ask for forgiveness. Like, it changes you.
Yeah, it's a special way of like refining your character that you don't get outside of marriage, I think.
Right.
Because like being married, well, I think this year will be 10 years for me. But like it's been such a refining process for me, and has made me a better person in almost every regard. Mm-hmm. And I think the things that you just described are the things that people don't know or don't comprehend about marriage, who are more on like the what's the complementarian? Egalitarian, there you go. All the people who espouse that stuff, they don't really comprehend the like nuances of these details, I think. Because they look at it through like, oh, well, I've had bad bosses who were men who, you know, domineered over me, so I don't think that should be how it is in marriage. And it's like, that's not the point. It's like, it's a failure of the man, first and foremost, if that goes wrong. Mm-hmm. And so if you've had that experience, I'm sorry, but that's not the way it's supposed to be. Like, we men, we have the most at stake, like the most responsibility as the head of the household.
That's probably more what I was getting at is we have the most of that, and we've subbed out our agency more than everyone else.
Probably, yeah.
It's a descending headship. Is how I've heard it described.
Yeah.
And so the most responsibilities with God, which he's good, and then Christ, and then the man at the home, and then the kids, and it just kind of goes that way. Then there's kind of a sidestep of that for the church, right? There's a different kind of authority or headship in the church. But I think, unfortunately, it comes from the Garden of Eden, where men have been just kind of castrated to a certain extent. And you see it in the church too, like a lot of churches are just run by women now because the dudes are like, they're just not leading.
We've talked about that, like about the inherent sin of men and women, and we kind of like debated about that a little bit. Yeah. About like men having this like lazy streak or like shirking responsibility or whatever it might be. It's kind of like the Garden of Eden sin that we have is just kind of like sidestepping our responsibility.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
Yeah. I mean, Adam blamed it on her, like, right away.
She did it.
It was her. There are times when, like, okay, like we're talking about socialists, like, they bring up the patriarchy, they bring up all these bad things, and it's like, are they right about the whole thing? No. Is any of their criticism valid? Have men ever abused any position of, you know? Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Like, has anybody in power ever abused like their power? Like, yeah. And so like a lot of it is like if a generation completely didn't put God at the head of their house, and the man thought he actually was the head, and you do what I say, and like actually was abusive.
A lot of damage.
It's damage, and then you're gonna go, see, there is something wrong with that, right? So then it's like they don't know a real model where the man is actually submitted to God and doesn't abuse their family and doesn't, or even if they do sin, they repent, you know, and it's like there's humility and there's this entire different life, like, and so if you're not offering that and showing people that, then what are you offering them? A worldly version of it that doesn't have God at the top, that doesn't have humility, that causes all these, so then it's like, well, I don't want that either. So yeah.
Like talking about reactionary stuff, like all these people who ascribe to socialism, I feel like these are things that could have been avoided because they are reacting to their upbringing and to their prior
Big
beliefs.
chunk of it, yes.
Yeah. And so like I feel confident that like my kids growing up and you know your kids will be kind of hardened to this type of belief because they have a strong foundation as it is. But a lot of these people, they just kind of, you know, grow up in the world with parents who either don't believe or maybe vaguely believe but never instilled it in their kids. And now they're off in the world learning whatever. And that's the danger. So being able to teach our own kids about it is a huge benefit. Yeah.
Yes. It's like what Bill Belichick said, do your job. It's not complicated.
It's not complicated.
You're blocking, okay? You're gonna go 5 steps and then turn left. Do your job.
That's true. I mean, that's great. It's probably one of the thing inherent in a sinful world is so you're blocking and the other guy's running his route or whatever. And for it to work like our socialist utopian guys would, or like us in our idea of Christ's kingdom fully realized, everyone has to do their job, and not everyone is. No matter how good you block, if the guy doesn't run his route, it's still gonna screw up.
Yep.
And then now we're here, we're screwed up.
Yep.
And then
Someone didn't
it's
block.
like, well, I'm not gonna block anymore. I'm not gonna block anymore because what's it matter? You don't run your route anyway.
That's why that's why socialism fails. You just described why it fails every time. Adam Smith, if you just read that, right? They tried it. Like they tried and then all of a sudden like people are like, I'm working harder than you. No, I'm not gonna do it all. And then like they just started fighting and they quit producing and then they just like left.
Then the incentive structure just
once that collapsed
goes away.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like you mix the modernism thing in, or like this obsession with like just dark ages, like monkeys, dark ages for like 200,000 years, and then like iPhones. But now we've got iPhones, and it's all new, and it's like people have been doing this for a
This is human nature.
time.
That's what we're saying. It's human
I'm glad
nature.
you, Mr. 16-year-old, whatever, dude, you think you've got it figured out.
That's exactly it.
We need to resurrect Genghis Khan and King David and Pharaoh, and you're gonna tell him how it's done,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
It's just because he went through a bad breakup and he's feeling a little like angsty and he wants to start a revolution. That's all it is. That's all.
Yeah. You and your Minecraft and your music, you're gonna tell them how it's done. I'm glad you've arrived.
Because they learned it through the university.
And they're gonna say, "Oh, so yeah, just give bread." Why didn't I think of that? I was just building monuments and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I just had, a million people build this thing over here, and I figured all that out and built canals and all. Oh, but you and your Minecraft, you're gonna tell me how it goes.
That's right. You and your Minecraft.
We've evolved past that.